Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has explosion release and shadow. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Haunted Scythe and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. So these two brats are supposed to protect me, the drunken old fool named Tazuna asked the Hokage in disbelief. You should be careful with your words, Tazuna-san. They may be young, but they are ninja nonetheless. They have abilities that surpass that of a civilian by far, the Hokage warned his client. Yeah, right. Let me guess. Pinky here is perfect at stalking her duck-ass teammate, and duck-ass is the master of brooding, Tazuna taunted, and everyone frowned at the drunken man. You should be careful of your words. We can always deny you our services, the Hokage threatened as a vein grew on his head. The bridge builder paled at the older man's threat. So what do you think? Will you take the mission? The old man sighed and asked no one in particular. Team 7 and his assistant knew who he was talking to, while Tazuna looked at the man like he was crazy. I will take it. It sounds too fishy to be true. Maybe there will be some fun for me, a bodiless eerie calm voice echoed through the room, and Tazuna turned white as chalk. Well then, you should introduce yourself, boy. Sarutobi smiled as he saw the client's distress. A slight chuckle was carried through the room as it began to collect itself in a shadowy corner of the room. A figure formed in the shadows and stepped out. There before everyone stood a 58-tall young teen with long spiky red hair and cold blue eyes. He wore black leather pants with black steel-tipped boots, a open black leather jacket with a red stripe along his arms, and a see-through mesh shirt. His hoodie was sewed into his leather belt around his waist. On his back was a huge sword. It had a long handle with upside-down skull at the end and a broad guard and horns at the end towards the handle. Behind the guard was a long-teethed skull with a broad blade seemingly coming from its mouth. The blade was at least 10 inches broad and 1 inch thick, while it held the impressive length of 5 feet. So in total it was about 6 feet long and had this evil aura around itself, making you shiver by just seeing it. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I'm the last member of your protection team, Tazuna-san. He bowed to the shivering man with a creepy smile, showing his long sharp teeth. The man could only nod his head, not trusting his own voice at the moment. Then I would suggest that you prepare yourself and we all meet at the southern gate in 1 hour, Kakashi stated and escaped the room in a puff of smoke, hoping to get away from his creepy student as soon as possible. Naruto could only smile at his sensei's behavior and melted into the shadowy corner again. Without another word, the genins left the room to prepare themselves. Just as Tazuna turned to leave, the voice of the old village leader stopped him. I would advise you to handle Naruto with care and respect. He may be a ninja of Konoha, but he has no problem with killing a client if he gets aggravated. He isn't called the Bloody Fang of Konoha for nothing, the man explained. Tazuna just gulped and nodded before he left the room. The old Sarutobi just smiled and turned to his paperwork. With a swift motion of his hands forming a crossed hand sign, 3 more Sarutobi popped into existence. These 3 pounced at the paperwork with a determined expression on their faces. Meanwhile, the original walked over to his couch and pulled out a small orange book from his sleeve. With a perverted giggle he opened it only to be interrupted. You know, old man, these books will be your downfall one day. Naruto smiled as he stepped out of the shadow. Hami above. The old Hokage yelled as he jumped up only to see his surrogate grandson leaning against his desk, having a rare smile on his lips. Naruto. What are you doing here? The Hokage scolded, but Naruto shrugged as he turned serious. Listen, old man, he stated firm, and Sarutobi shut up. This mission is more dangerous than Tazuna wants to make us believe, he explained, while he pulled a cigarette from inner pocket of his jacket and lit it. The man looked at the boy disapprovingly but couldn't say anything because he knew of the redhead circumstances. What do you mean, boy? He inquired. I mean that the Wave Country is currently under the reign of Gato shipment that got Sarutobi's attention. I think that we will encounter at least one missing nin C rank or higher. It said that he has a thing for silent killings, so we could probably meet one of Kiri's missing nin. So you should upgrade the mission, the teen explained. Sarutobi analyzed his explanation and nodded. He moved to his desk and took out a scroll to update the mission from C to A and handed it to the boy. I'm making you the one in command. Should you encounter a missing nin above B rank, you will take command and lead for the rest of the mission with Kakashi as your second in command, the man explained, and Naruto nodded. The teen began to leave but stopped shortly before the shadowy corner and looked over his shoulder. Oh, and old man, he asked, and Sarutobi looked towards him. Tell Jiraiya-sensei not to peek at the hot springs. If I find out that he spied on her, I promise you that he has been a man for the longest time of his life, the boy warned, and his eyes flashed white for a second before he vanished into the shadows. I hate it when he does that, Sarutobi mumbled, a bit afraid for his old student. Near the hot springs, a white-haired man felt a cold shiver run down his spine. I think I should pass on my research for today, or I think I will lose something very important to me. He thought, a bit scared, and shielded his groin involuntarily while he walked away to a bar. A group of girls in the hot springs felt a sudden relief and relaxed into the warm water. The pervert got scared off. They all thought with a big goofy smile as they soaked. An hour later Team 7 and their client were at the gate. Will everyone expect Naruto? Now then let's go, Kakashi ordered, and they began their journey. Hey, where'd that Naruto boy Tazuna asked as he looked around. Don't waste your time. He is around. Kakashi just shrugged and he felt a shudder run down his spine. I think I just pissed off the devil. I should learn to keep my mouth shut. He thought and eyed his surrounding careful. Just as they passed through the gate a small shadow emerged from the gate's shadow into Tazuna's. The man felt a shiver and looked around but didn't see anything. So he just shrugged it off and followed his protection team, hoping that they wouldn't find out the truth. Hours passed and the little group didn't really make any advance. Because of the old bridge builder they were forced to move at civilian pace, which made them quite a target for enemies. It was late afternoon as something caught Kakashi's eye. There further before them was a puddle of water, even though it hadn't rained in days. He decided it would be a good test for his team to see how far advanced they really were. Without any sign of interest he switched with a log that he had hinged into a copy of himself. Just as he predicted, the puddle was a trap. The team passed it and out of it came two masked ninja with an evil glint in their eyes. They jumped the unprepared team and client and cut his copy into pieces. To his disappointment they behaved like bloody rookies. Sakura and Tazuna froze up like statues and Sasu charged head-on, only to be smacked away like a simple fly. He just wanted to intervene, but he knew he was too late. His team was doomed. Fuck. Where are you, Naruto? He thought in panic. The attackers threw their chains at Sakura and Tazuna, only for something unexpected to happen. Out of the bridge builder's shadow 4 black chains shot forward and deflected the incoming ones. They hovered around the two in a protective manner like they had a mind of their own. An eerie cackle echoed through the area that made everyone freeze up. Suddenly a black hand shot out of the man's shadow and began to pull an evenly black figure with white glowing eyes out of it. As it had fully emerged the shadow, the darkness began to retract and revealed tanned skin, along with black leather clothes and a giant sword. The figure laughed like a madman and he looked at the frightened enemies. Only now they seemed to notice that the chains from before were coming from his back like they were extensions of his body. Well, the demon brothers of Kiri. So I was right that Gato would hire someone like you, he chuckled with his creepy smile showing his fangs. The brothers looked at him in sheer terror. They knew who they were facing. An enemy so strong that they would never stand a chance. Before them stood the bloody fang of Konoha. Gozu whispered, afraid. So you know me? Then I don't need to waste time to introduce myself. Naruto gave them a soft smile. Then he tilted his head and the smile changed into a predatory smile. Now let's have some fun, he cackled and ran in between them, grabbing their faces in the process and dragging them into the forest. Team 7 and Tazuna looked in the direction their companion had dragged the two missing nin, with such ease showing them once again why he was a special jonin and they just mere genin. Though they shivered at the thought of the two enemies' fate. Ear-splitting screams echoed through the forest and they flinched in fear. The scream sounded of fear and pain, but most overall of true terror. Just the thought what he was doing to them made them piss their pants. Minutes of terror-filled screams passed till they fell silent. Kakashi had used the time to rejoin his team and client and soothe their worries. 10 minutes later the sound of breaking branches made everyone look into the dark forest. Naruto emerged happily whistling while juggling two scrolls between his hands. Naruto, what happened? Kakashi asked, a bit fearful. Let's just say that they didn't want to cooperate at first, but as you know I can be very convincing. Naruto's smile vanished into a neutral face. Kakashi took a step back, not wanting to anger the young jonin any further. He once had a talk with a teen and he still had scars to prove it. Wow, what's in the scrolls? Naruto Sakura asked carefully. Oh, in these? Only the remains of the recently deceased demon brothers. He shrugged and put the scrolls into a seal on the inside of his jacket, not that the others knew about that. Truth be told, only in one of them were the remains of the deceased brothers, while the other one held his new acquired food. So Tazuna-sen, I believe you have some explaining to do. Naruto stared at his client and stressed the honorific. I don't know what you mean. The old man began to sweat. From my interrogation I got the informations that these two along with Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist, were hired by Gato to get rid of you. Now tell me, old man, why does that fat midget want your death? He inquired, a bit angered. Tazuna was now pale as death and he looked like a deer in the headlights. He began with a shaky voice. Don't you dare to lie to me or you will get to meet a side of me that only a few have ever met and even less survived, the teen snarled, baring his fangs. Don't you think it's enough? Naruto. Kakashi tried to soothe the teen's anger. With a heavy sigh and a short snarl he turned around and continued the journey to Wave. Come on. We have a mission to finish, he growled while looking over his shoulder. The others could have sworn that they saw his eyes flash white for a second, but shrugged it off, hoping that he would continue the journey in silence, not wanting to deal with his anger. They had once seen the boy in action. To be precisely when their sensei make that former sensei. Mizuki attacked him as he entered the classroom and Naruto grabbed him by his throat and ripped him apart, making quite a mess. His sensei the Toad-san and Jiraiya just stood the door and watched the scene, not intervening with his students' actions. After that no one dared to attack him. Though he and Sasuke had been friends long before Naruto had left the village with 6 years, they were still good friends, despite the teen's short-fused temper. During the walk he sunk deep into his own thoughts, walking only by instinct. Flashback, you should be careful to not let your anger get the better of you, boy, Jiraiya warned as he sat down after one of their little spars. Oh, shut up, sensei. I'm totally in control. Even Ni-sen says that I'm fine, a younger Naruto huffed. You shouldn't believe everything the fox tells you. Foxes are born pranksters after all, the old man stated dry. I trust her as much as I trust you, Jiraiya. If it hadn't been for the regenerative abilities she provided me, I would have never lived through the transition, and you know that, the boy warned. I know that, and like you I'm thankful for that, but she is still a demon, the Sannin just sighed and leaned against a tree. She may be a demon, but then again. What am I? I'm not a human anymore, that's for sure. The boy smiled and leaned against a boulder as he lit a cigarette. The Toad-san looked at the boy with a frown. You know that I don't like it when you smoke. You're too young for that, the man frowned. And you know that I don't care. Heck, I can't even get lung cancer even if I wanted to. Naruto blew a bluish cloud in the air. I know, but it's just you are technically way too young to smoke even with your Kekkei Genkai, the Sannin said, not thinking about what he said. Naruto flinched at the mentioning of his Kekkei Genkai. Its activation was the hardest and most painful experience he ever had. If it hadn't been for the Kurami-chan's healing factor he wouldn't have survived it. Jiraiya finally realized what he had said and looked guilty at his young student. I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't mean to, he began, but Naruto interrupted him. Don't worry about it, sensei. It happened and you can't take back what was already said. So just forget it, the short-haired redhead shrugged. Flashback end. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts as Sasuke threw a kunai into the bushes at the side of the road. While Sakura walked over to check if he had hit something, Naruto sharpened his senses to his surroundings. Then he heard it. A whirling sound that came closer at high velocity. Everybody down. He bellowed and pulled Tazuna to the ground as the other did so too. Just as they ducked, a giant sword flew over them and embedded itself in a tree. Its wielder appearing on the long hilt and smirking under the bandages on his face. He jumped of his sword, pulling it from the tree in a swift motion and placing it on his shoulder. Well, well, well. Kakashi the copycat nin. What an honor. Well, well, well. Kakashi the copycat nin. What an honor. Zabuza smiled under hid bandages as he eyed the team that was supposed to protect his target till his eyes fell on a redhead. He gulped. Why you, he stuttered and stepped back. Why is he so afraid of this boy? Tazuna thought, amazed. Well, hello, Zabuza. It's an honor to finally meet you, the redhead bowed mockingly. What are you doing here, he stuttered. I don't know what you mean. I'm a jonin of Konoha after all and was ordered to accompany this mission, Naruto shrugged with a fanged grin. Zabuza tried to regain his composure. Naruto just sighed and passed the tall man a book which he caught. Page 189. The teen yawned and leaned against a tree. His eye twitched for a second before he smirked. Despite everyone watching, no one noticed him creating a shadow clone in the tree which left the group. Zabuza in the meantime had opened the book at said page and his eyes widened. Sasuke had also pulled out his bingo book and opened said page. The genins and client's eyes also widened. Name? Naruto Uzumaki. Rank? S rank special jonin. Alias? Bloody Fang of Konoha, the dark-blooded beast. Allied village? Konohagakure. Allies? Mei Terumi Gade Mizukage. Jiraiya the Toad Sennin. Su native slug Sennin. Yashiyuki Kaneko fire daimyo. Skills. Ninjutsu Anbu level, don't engage in close combat, range jutsu have a slight chance of success. Ninjutsu high jonin level, horrific illusions. Can break every Jinjutsu cast on him. The Jutsu Anbu level uses an unknown style called Black Fist. Don't engage in battle. Ninjutsu low Anbu level uses the Wind Dragon style. Don't engage in battle unless the same level. Yuinjutsu Seal Master, greater Seal Master than Jiraiya of the Sennin. Kills. Raiga of the Seven Swordmen of the Mist. Iguri Yonde Mizukage. Idara of Awakager. Sasori of the Red Sand. Anzo Shimura. Kabuto Yakushi. Obito Ichiha aka Tobi. Bounty. Iwa 100.000.00 Oraio engage with care. Odo 350.000.00 Oraio flee on sight. Everyone gawked at the teen who just yawned. Kakashi stared at him in disbelief. He killed Obito, but Obito is long dead. The one-eyed jonin thought, confused. I know what you are thinking, Kakashi. Naruto sighed and broke the man out of his musing. Kakashi looked at him confused. Obito survived his accident and went crazy. It seems he saw you killing Rin and snapped. After that he planned to kill everyone. Naruto paused and sighed. He had to be stopped. The teen finished and turned to Zabuza. So what now, Zabuza? You still want to fight? He paused again as the memories of his clone came back to him. Because you associate doesn't seem to be so interested, he finished. I don't want to fight. I know when I'm outmatched, the man sighed. So you will simply retreat? Sakura asked, confused only to be at the receiving end of a death glare. You should thank him, girl. If it wasn't for your friend here I would have killed you all, Zabuza snarled. Calm down, Zabuza. There is no need for bad blood, Naruto soothed the man's anger with his own little pun. Kakashi flinched at the teen's little pun because he knew exactly what he meant. You're right. No need for me to spill blood of some fresh genin, Zabuza sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Team Missing-in and Jonin noticed the sudden shudder that ran over the teen and got a bad feeling. You are right, Naruto trailed off with a dreamy look in his eyes. No one dared to go closer to him till he suddenly shook his head. You may want to have your former partners back, Zabuza, he sighed and pulled out a scroll. The Missing-in, he stared at the scroll before it dawned on him. Nah. You can have their bounty. I don't leech of others' work all too much, he answered calm. So come on now, Zabuza. We have much to talk about. Naruto looked eager all of a sudden and walked up to the man. Zabuza just eyed the boy wary till he walked past him and gestured him to follow him. You guys go on ahead to Tazuna's house. I will meet you there, Naruto called, and the two nins left into the woods. Team 7 and their client stared at the spot they vanished from in confusion. Just when did you get so strong, Naruto? Sasuke thought a bit sad that his friend had changed so much. Obito, what happened to you? Kakashi thought somber. Naruto is scary. Sakura thought with a shiver. This boy is terrifying. Tazuna gulped. Come on, let's move. How far is your house away? Tazuna and Kakashi decided to get the mission on the move. Just a few minutes from here, Tazuna snapped out of his thoughts. Well then let's go, Kakashi ordered, and the group made their way to their client's house. All of them a bit wary of what Naruto was planning. Hours later, Team 7, Tazuna, his daughter Tsunami and her son Inari were sitting at the dining table eating dinner. A sudden knock on the door called their attention to it. Tazuna and his family were afraid. Could it be one of Gato's men? Did he find out about Tazuna going to Konoha for help? Kakashi nodded for Tsunami to open the door while he pulled out a kunai and prepared himself to attack. Careful and with trembling hands she reached for the door and turned the handle. Slowly the door crept open and revealed a shadow before it. Just as Kakashi wanted to pounce on the figure, a eerie calm voice spoke. If I were you, Kakashi, I wouldn't even think of moving, the voice whispered from behind him. He could feel cold steel on his neck and realized that the figure was already behind him. But he also recognized the voice. Oh, it's you, Naruto. Kakashi tried to sound relaxed, but the teen noticed the slight tone of fear. You are getting rusty, Kakashi, he stated and stepped back while he put his sword away. Tsunami eyed the newcomer with a mixture of fear and awe. Say, Naruto. Where is your giant sword? Tazuna asked careful. I sealed it away. I decided to use my secondary swords. They are far better for fast combat, Naruto explained calm as he turned to Tsunami. Everyone eyed the two weird short swords on his back. Their scabbards were crossed on his back and reached over his shoulders. They looked like short broadswords with a bent-down handle. The handle itself was wrapped with dark red cloth. But what caught their attention were the weird cylindric things at the end of the blade. And? Think Squall's gunblade from Final Fantasy V. I'm sorry for my late coming. I had to take care of a few things before I came here. My name is Uzumaki Naruto and I'm a member of the team to protect your father. It's nice to meet you, the teen bowed with a calm smile. My name is Tsunami. It's nice to meet you, Naruto-kun. She also bowed. Would you like to join us for dinner? She asked as the three walked back to the table. That's a kind offer, but I have to decline. My body can't digest normal food anyway. I have my food with me and will eat later, he explained with a kind smile. You can also eat your food with us. It's more comfy to eat with more people. Tsunami's smile never left her lips. I don't think that you would like it if I was to unpack my food. It would ruin your appetite for sure. Naruto leaned back in his chair and watched everyone. His comrades just ate their food along with Tazuna, not really wanting to know what he meant by it, or in Kakashi's case, knew what he meant and didn't want to think about it. Tsunami and Inari on the other hand were more curious. In a spark of confidence she tried to challenge him. It can't be so bad if you eat it, she stated. Naruto thought about it for a moment before he pulled out a scroll. A scroll that was somehow very familiar to her. Hey, isn't it a scroll he had after he interrogated the demon brothers? She whispered to Sasuke, who looked at it and nodded. The young Jonin unrolled it and placed his hand on a sealing matrix. With a push of chakra, a plum of smoke appeared, and when the smoke vanished it showed a small bottle made of metal. He opened the bottle and took a swig before he held it to Tsunami. Take a smell and you will know why I didn't want to unpack it here, he stated firm, and she suddenly felt unsure. Yet she steeled herself and took the bottle to hold it beneath her nose. With a short sniff she began to take in the smell of the liquid inside of it. It smelled metallic. She knew that smell from somewhere. Where have I smelled that before? She tried to remember. Suddenly her mind froze. She remembered that smell. That horrible smell. A smell she hoped to never smell again. The smell of blood. Her eyes widened and she looked at Naruto. The bottle slipped from her hand and would have crashed on the table, sputtering its content, but Naruto caught it easily before he sat down again. I warned you, Tsunami-san. You wouldn't like it, he shrugged and took another swig. Why she stuttered. Why I'm drinking it, he formed the question for her. She could only nod, not really trusting her voice. He just sighed and looked at Kakashi, who nodded and began to play silencing seals on the walls. When he was finished he took his seat again. What I will reveal to you now is a S-rank secret. If you tell anyone about this you will be executed on the spot, Naruto stated serious. Everyone paled but nodded. The reason why I drink blood, everyone paled even more at that, is because of my Kekkei Genkai. I am a vampire. To sustain my life and power I need to drink blood. Along with it I gain certain abilities. I gain the memories of everyone I drink blood from. It powers my special abilities like the one you have witnessed before. Tazuna-san. Naruto nodded to the old man who stared at him questioning. The power to travel inside shadows is one of my abilities. As long as I hide inside someone's shadow this person can't be harmed because all damaged will immediately transferred to me. I also have advanced senses along with enhanced strength and stamina, Naruto explained calm as his eyes turned white, leaving only his black slit pupils. This is a sign that I'm using some of my abilities, he explained, and his eyes returned to the blue color. There was silence in the room. No one dared to say something. Say Naruto. Sakura trailed off, not sure if she wanted to know. Yes Sakura, he asked patiently. Did you ever? She trailed off once again. Kill someone for his or her blood? Yes. Did I ever kill a villager of Konoha? Yes, on weekly basis. Were they innocent? No, because I only feed on prisoners in the death row. Did I ever feel guilty about my doings? At first yes, but nowadays I have accepted it as a part of my whole being. I am a vampire, a servant of the Shinigami herself, blessed by her herself. I am a monster who knows no equal. Though there are some side effects when I drain a human. Naruto finished. What side effects? Kakashi asked, not knowing of this. I gain some of the victim's personality when I drain them. That's why I was so short-tempered when we began the mission, and now thanks to the new blood my personality changed again, even if just a bit, he explained and stood up. He began to walk to the front door when he stopped. Oh and boy, he called, making everyone look at Inari and then at him. You shouldn't spout nonsense like giving up is the only choice. Giving up never gets you anywhere because only those who are courageous enough to step forward can forge their own way in life. Now you should be brave for your family because they really need it, he stated and left the house and its inhabitants to think about the just said. Sasuke lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. Thinking of what his old friend had told them hours ago. Flashback. Sasuke and his mother sat on the veranda of their house and looked at the garden. Foot tapping from behind alerted them to the presence of a visitor. Sasuke turned around and looked over Mikoto's shoulder. The door slid open and revealed Itachi in his full Anbu gear, only wasn't he wearing his mask. Itachi Nai. Sasuke yelled and bolted for his big brother. Itachi laughed and picked the black blur up as he reached him. Hey there Sasuke. How are you? I hope you are not causing any trouble again, he laughed and Sasuke pouted childish. You're home early son. Mikoto smiled as she walked over to her sons. Suddenly a somber expression crossed his face and his eyes hushed to the side. She followed his eyes and gasped. There beside him stood a young dirty child. Covered in dirty and bruises and clothed in bloody rags, stood there a little boy, not older than Sasuke. Kami above, she gasped and covered her mouth with a hand. She tried to reach out to the boy only for him to flinch away, looking like a cornered animal he seemed to search for an escape route. Mikoto flinched back, not wanting to believe how frightened this child was. Itachi Nai, who is that? Sasuke asked from his brother's arms as he eyed the dirty child. That is Naruto. I'm one of his protectors, Itachi explained calm. Naruto. Mikoto gasped again, not wanting to believe it. The son of her longtime friends looking like this. Ready to bolt on the next chance. What happened to him? She muttered as she crouched down before him. The villagers were after him again. Itachi sighed, not really wanting to talk about it. Come here Naruto. I won't hurt you, Mikoto whispered to the boy only for him to grab Itachi's leg and hide his face in it. He is too afraid of anyone beside the Anbu core. I hoped he would open up a bit, but it seems like the villagers finally succeeded and broke his spirit. He is nearly apathetic to everyone. It's like he isn't even there anymore. Itachi sighed and carefully patted the boy's head, not receiving a smile or any kind of reaction. Why are the villagers so mean to him? Sasuke asked, not really understanding what was going on. Because they are narrow-minded fools, little brother. They fear what they don't understand, Itachi explained calm, but the anger in his voice was evident. Careful not to surprise him too much, Mikoto reached out to the boy and brought him into a careful hug. Just as her arms wrapped around him he began to stiffen but didn't protest. His eyes darted around hoping to finally find an escape route. The hug was warm to him but he didn't care. The touch of another person was unfamiliar to him. This warmth was frightening to him. He only felt some kind of warmth when the villagers attacked him and his own blood ran over his skin. So his young mind had only one way to react. It shut down, awaiting the pain. But nothing happened. Come on Naruto, let's get you cleaned up, Mikoto whispered and picked him up. Want to come you too? She asked her sons. I will come. I'm his protector after all, Itachi stated monotone. Sasuke stared at his brother, mother and the weird boy. So to not be left out he hugged his brother. I wanna come, he begged. Okay little brother, but please give Naruto his space. He is afraid of other people, Itachi whispered to his father who nodded. 3 of them went to the bath while Mikoto went to get towels for them. When she entered the bath she gasped again. There sat a naked Naruto still covered in dirt. But what caught her eye were the many scars that littered his little body. All kind of scars ran over his body from small scratches over rig cutting wounds to burn marks. There were even fresh wounds that were healing at a fast pace. She knew of the Kyuubi and its healing capabilities towards its host. Carefully she scooted to the boy and pressed a wet sponge against his bare back, making him flinch but still stay in place. The boy watched their mother clean the frightened boy. It pained Sasuke to see someone his age being treated like this. Why? Why would they do something like that? He tried to understand. Don't think about it, Sasuke. You wouldn't understand it anyway. There are things you are better of not knowing, Itachi whispered as he noticed his little brother's confusion. Sasuke only nodded, believing his big brother and hoping that it was for the best. After the bath they brought the boy to the family dinner where many clan members looked at the boy with concern. Even the stoic Fugaku gulped as he saw how the poor child looked. He knew that the villagers were monsters and tried to use his influence and the Uchiha police to protect him, but they couldn't be everywhere at the same time. This boy was one of the reasons why he and the elders had planned a coup against the village and these monsters in the civil council that allowed and even supported the abuse of the Kyuubi vessel. Mikoto threw her husband a look and shook her head, and he sighed. I think we have to cancel our plans for the village, he stated, serious, gaining many gasps. But Fugaku-sama. One man tried to protest only to be shut up by his glare. We have a higher priority right now. He paused and looked at the boy who eyed everything with an apathetic look. We need to protect this child from these monsters that live in this village till he is strong enough to protect himself. I hereby declare that from this day onward Uzumaki Naruto will be placed under the protection of the Uchiha clan. But then Naruto's new life began. Over the next months he began to open up to the Uchihas, and after a year he even began to smile again. Flashback end. Sasuke sighed as he remembered how Naruto had stepped into his life, only to leave 2 years later again when Jiraiya came and picked him up, saying that he was his godfather and would train him. The perverted Sennin didn't make it out of the compound unharmed. Many of the clan had made a space for Naruto in their hearts and punished him for abandoning the boy for so long. He didn't even dare to make any kind of research for the rest of his stay in Konoha. Not that Sasuke knew of that back then. But that he turned around and fell asleep, hoping to finally find a way back to his friend with secret being revealed. After Naruto left Tazuna's house he jumped into the trees and made his way to his target while talking to his Ni-chan. Say Ni-chan, was it right of me to tell them the truth? He asked his tenant. I think they deserve to know it, Taudo. They work with you after all, Konami said in his mind. I think so too, but I just don't like people looking at me like I'm crazy. He sighed. I know what you mean, she sighed. Naruto stopped on a branch and looked down. He stood before a large mansion. This little fucking midget. He snarled as the smell of sex and fear swang by him. Calm down, Taudo. No need to explode right here. You better make him suffer, Konami snarled, also pissed. But that the teen vanished and reappeared on the roof. He crouched beside a window and opened it silently with a kunai. Without making a noise he slipped inside and sneaked over the beams and looked for his target. Finally he found the man. Gato was truly a midget. He thought Zabuza had exaggerated when he told him about the idiot who hired him. This time the teen slipped into the shadows of the intermediate ceiling and fell to the ground right into the shadow of a flower pot. From there he watched the room and was disgusted. There in the king-size bed lay 5 naked women. This fat midget had disgraced them and covered them in his liquids. A snarl escaped him as he analyzed the situation. You're a dead man, Gato. He thought angry and could feel that Konami agreed with him. Naruto slipped into the next shadow and then into the next till he finally reached the shadow of the desk at which the man sat. He then entered the man's shadow and gained control over his body. Good thing that you found a way to enter someone's mind, though their shadow. Konami smiled at her brother. Naruto sent her evil smile, knowing full well that she also enjoyed it to smash some bastard soul. Gato didn't even know what came over him as his mind was set to sleep and Naruto took control. Forming a clone inside Gato, he left the body and materialized beside him. I will raid his safe and you will call his men together. You know what to do, the original stated serious as he walked over to a self-portrait of the bastard. Gato only nodded and left the room. Naruto ripped the portrait of the wall, gaining the attention of one of the women who was actually awake. Fast he turned to her and made soothing gesture. I'm here to help. Gato won't hurt you anymore, he soothed her as he walked over. She began to sob and grabbed his jacket. Her sobs actually woke up the other women and they stared at the teen. Don't worry, I will bring you out of here. Are there more, he asked quietly, not to frighten them. There are more in the dungeon, one whispered. I will free them once I have raided all of Gato's belongings. By that time my partner should have cleared a path for us to leave through, he stated firm while creating a clone, shocking the women. Don't worry. I'm a ninja from Konoha, he smiled and switched with the clone. But the clone soothed the women while he cracked the safe. When he opened it he couldn't help but whistle. In it were many scrolls and a huge load of cash. Quickly he pulled out 4 sealing scrolls and sealed everything up while reading the account books in the safe. One scroll held all the money Gato had stolen from Wave with some extra money, along with all right on his company. Another one held Zabuza's payment. Naruto was a monster, but he knew that the man and his companion needed the money. The third held the rest of the money that he would keep for himself. And finally the last one held all the scrolls from the safe. The scrolls held secret clan jutsus. Everything. Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Kinjutsu, Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu. They were too dangerous to leave them in civilian hands. In the meantime Gato had rounded all his men for a discussion. Why did you call us, Gato-san, one thug asked. Oh, I just wanted you all in one place for a little surprise, he grinned. What kind of surprise, another idiot asked. Gato's grin grew even further. Your sudden demise. He yelled. Immediately hundreds of clones emerged from the shadows and killed everyone present. When all of Gato's men were dead the clones turned to Gato. Everyone. Henge into the thugs that you killed and pretend to be them. Seal up every body for that we can get money and incarnate the rest. Leave no trace behind, Gato yelled. The clones did just that and went to work. With that Gato went back into his mansion. Meanwhile Naruto had freed the rest of the slaves and got them some clothes to cover their bodies. They left the mansion just as Gato entered it again. The women whimpered as they saw the midget with his guards. Don't worry. That's not Gato, Naruto soothed them and they looked at him weirdly. Hey boss. Everything is going as planned, Gato stated firm, confusing the poor women further. Don't worry ladies. I'm controlling Gato right now. He has no free will at the moment. He would even kill himself if I told him to, Naruto explained. The women stared at him in disbelief and he shrugged. Gato, slap yourself in the face, he deadpanned. Gato did as told and slapped himself hard. The former slaves stared at the two in disbelief. Come on, let's get going ladies. I want to have you all at home by morning, Naruto stated. He wanted to walk outside but was stopped by Gato. You should wait a bit boss. It's quite messy outside, he stated firm, not wanting to let the women see the mess he had created earlier. One woman or more of a girl his age was actually more curious than afraid because of her suffering. She stepped outside and gasped. There was a huge army of Naruto's incarnating Gato's thugs, while others transformed into said thugs. What is going on here, she stuttered. It's part of a big plan. Let's just say that I want to make Gato suffer as much as possible, Naruto shrugged as he stepped beside her. The other women actually got curious and stepped outside only to gasp. Some of them even smiled at the sight of actual justice being served. Come on, let's go ladies. This is no place for you, the teen stated, and they left the mansion while Gato walked inside. Gato woke up at his desk feeling a bit woozy. He looked around and found the woman he had fucked earlier lying on the bed. With a smug grin he walked over to his safe and opened it. He eyed his whole treasure. All the things he had stolen or gained through blackmailing or ordering the murder of innocent people. Now he only had to get rid of that fucking bridge builder and then the whole Wave country would belong to him. He laughed hysterical and walked over to the bed, letting his hand sliding over the leg of one of his slaves. The woman shuddered under his touch but stayed asleep. He didn't notice the evil being hiding in his shadow or that everything he worshipped was just illusion by the being. Gato had nothing left without even knowing it. Naruto walked up to a clearing in the woods, closely followed by the freed women. Page Bunshin no Jutsu, he mumbled, and 2 clones appeared without any smoke. The women were once again surprised but didn't say anything. Wordless, the clones made their way into the clearing and placed each other at each side of the clearing. They began to make hand signs. Wood release. House growing jutsu, the 2 shouted and the wood shot from the ground between the 2. The wood formed into a flat. The new formed object was a large flat in traditional Japanese style. With that the clones vanished without a sound. Everyone stared at the newly created building. Come on girls, let's get you inside, Naruto stated as he walked in. Why are we here, a girl asked. I can't let you back in the village as of now. I have plans for Gato, until then you are better of here. I don't know if he has any henchman outside the mansion, the teen explained calm and continued his walk. The women only nodded and followed the teen. Inside the flat they stared around amazed. The house was fully furnished. This is amazing, one woman breathed. It's a technique only 3 people can perform, me included, Naruto stated calm and walked over to the balcony on the backside of the house. There he created 5 shadow clones and they vanished into the forest. These 5 will take care of you till everything is cleared out. They will tend to your needs while I proceed to free Wave, the vampire teen explained calm. So we should just live here while you go back and risk your life for us, a girl asked a bit angry. I'm not risking my life. I'm too strong for that, he looked over his shoulder and smiled. And besides, I'm a monster. There is no one so far that could kill me, he stated as his eyes turned white and he bared his long white fangs. The women flinched at his sight but didn't say anything. Don't worry about your safety. Nothing will harm you while my clones are around. He paused as the memories of one clone returned to him. And from the looks of it there seems to be a hot spring near here, he continued and smiled. Okay, I have to go now. My team is waiting for me, he stated as 4 clones emerged from the forest with all kinds of stuff. They carried hunted animals, firewood and some kind of moss. With that the teen vanished in the shadows, creeping the women out. Don't worry about him. The boss isn't really a person for big company, a clone stated calm. What do you mean, a woman asked. The boss has never opened up to someone except his sister. He was treated like a monster even before he actually became one, the clone explained as he began to spread the moss on the chairs as some kind of cushion. What do you mean with monster, the woman continued. Are you familiar with the term Jinchuriki, the clone with the firewood asked. All the women shook their heads except one. You mean the container of the biju, right, she asked. The clones nodded sadly while the women stiffened at the mentioning of the biju. The boss is a Jinchuriki and the villagers attacked him because of their blind anger. Hadn't it been for his biju he wouldn't have survived his first week alive because the villagers were constantly after his life the first sight while he skinned the animals they caught. Which one, the woman asked calm, but the fear was evident. Would you please give us your name before we continue, the 4th clone asked as he helped the first. I'm Antagua. Now please answer my question, she stated firm. The boss holds the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the second answered. There was a death-like silence and the flat only interrupted by the clones working. Why are you telling us all that? If your boss is so antisocial, then why are you telling us all that? Shouldn't you be more like him, a girl asked, breaking the silence. You are right, we should be the same, and we usually are, but the boss made us 4 different, so we would be a better company for you all. It wouldn't be a good idea if we were as cold as him, the 3rd clone stated as he finished spreading the moss. So come on now, let us all introduce ourselves so we can get along better, a woman stated, and everyone nodded. Naruto fell out of a tree beside Tazuna's house, startling Team 7 and Tazuna, who were planning their upcoming training and guard duty. They turned to look at him. Hey Naruto, where were you, Kakashi asked lazy while reading his smut. Oh, I was just sightseeing and getting some new food, the teen shrugged, not planning to tell the team about his plans. Everyone shuddered at the mentioning of food and didn't want to ask any further. Okay, with Naruto being back we can start your training, Kakashi explained before he turned to Naruto, never letting his smut sink from before his eyes. Naruto, could you guard Tazuna while I train my team, he asked lazy. Will do. But you shouldn't be so lazy, Kakashi. It can backfire one day, Naruto stated and gestured Tazuna to go ahead. But that the Konoha inn separated once again. Team 7 walked into the forest near the house and began the tree walking exercise. Meanwhile did Naruto and his client reach the bridge. They were greeted by only 4 men. Morning Akudo. Where is everyone else, Tazuna greeted his coworker. Morning Tazuna. There is no one else except us 4, Akudo stated sadly. What do you mean, Tazuna looked shocked. I mean that there is no one except us 4 who are willing to risk their lives for this bridge. Gato is brutal, Akudo sighed and rubbed his lower arms. Don't worry about Gato. He won't harm any of you as long as I'm here, Naruto stated firm. And you are Kid, another worker asked. I'm a Jonin from Konoha and here to protect the bridge builder Tazuna along with his family and coworkers. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto introduced himself. The bloody fang of Konoha worker whispered, a bit afraid. Don't worry, as long as I'm here there will come no harm to you. Naruto gave a fanged smile and created over 20 clones. These guys will assist you in any way you might need them, just don't ask them too much or they can get aggravated, Naruto explained and leaned against the fence on the border of the bridge. But that everyone went to work once again and with brightened up spirits. Things seemed good for the people of Wave once again. Time skipped 3 days. Naruto wandered through the forest to ease his mind. While his clones took care of Tazuna and the bridge. Suddenly he felt something and smiled. Well, hell, Haku. How are you doing, the teen asked seemingly no one. Just then a hunter nin fell out of a tree behind him and landed in a crouch. Hello Uzumaki-sama, Haku stated monotone. Please stop that, Haku. We are the same age. There is no need for such honorifics, the teen stated. Haku just bowed and Naruto groaned at the teen's behavior. Very well, Naruto-san, he stated firm while Naruto face palmed. So how is Zabuza doing, he changed the topic. Zabuza-sama is bored out of his mind. He wishes to know when you plan to move, the other teen snickered. Finally you are showing some emotions, Haku. The vampire thought. Then tell him that we move tomorrow afternoon, Naruto smiled and Haku left in a ice shunshin. Interesting. A Hayaten user. Maybe a Kekkei Genkai. I should ask him later for a bit blood. Naruto thought with a smile. But that he also vanished, but in his characteristic lightning shunshin. Flashback, Zabuza followed the vampire teen into the forest. In a clearing they came to a stop and leaned against a tree. So what do you want to talk about, Bloody Fang, Zabuza asked careful. First call me Naruto. Second, how about you come from out Haku, Naruto explained. Called the last part. Zabuza's eye twitched but gave a short nod. Right then the hunter nin fell out of a tree and walked to Zabuza's side. So what do you want, Naruto? Zabuza asked again. I have a plan to get rid of Gato, the teen stated blunt. What do you mean? Zabuza growled with the edge of anger in his voice. Don't worry, Zabuza. I will give you guys your share once everything is over. The teen yawned bored as he looked at his fingernails. What are you planning, boy? Zabuza asked curious. I will give Gato a spectacular end and free the wave country. Last time he might have escaped me, but not this time, Naruto stated firm and cold. This sounds interesting. Tell me more. Zabuza smiled under his bandages and leaned forward. Flashback end. Naruto reappeared near Tazuna's house and was greeted by Tsunami doing the laundry. Hello, Tsunami-san. Can I help you? Naruto greeted. Hello, Naruto-san. Thank you, but you don't have to worry about it. You have more important work to do, she greeted. Don't worry. Your father and the other workers are safe. I have my clones watching them, the teen explained and picked up a piece of cloth. Without further protest, she accepted the teen's help and they worked together in silence. Tsunami-san, they paused and she looked at him. I have to ask something of you, he continued. What can I do for you? She asked with her usual beautiful smile. I want you to bring the whole village to the bridge tomorrow afternoon, but keep the children home, he explained while he hung up another piece of cloth. Tsunami stared at him confused while continued to hang up the clothes for drying. Why? She asked after a few moments of silence. I want to show Wave the spectacular end of its tyrant. Naruto gave her a fanged smile that gave the woman a shiver down her spine. But why shouldn't the children be there? She asked with a queasy feeling in her stomach. Because it will be pretty brutal, Naruto smiled as he picked up another piece of cloth. But that the two continued their work in silence and walked into the house. Just before they entered, he created a clone that left for Team 7. The shadow clone crouched in a tree and watched Team 7 train. They were still trying to get the tree walking down. I should have a talk with Kakashi about his lax training in the near future. He thought and eyed the team. Kakashi leaned against a tree and read his smut as usual with a perverted giggle from time to time. You lazy idiot. The clone sighed. Sakura had her hands on her knees and was panting hard. She was obviously tired. I thought you had upped your training after the academy. I think I will give you a new training plan once we return to the leaf. He thought as he watched the pink-haired girl. Sasuke was still working hard, but the exhaustion was visible on his face. He definitely used way too much chakra in his attempts on the technique. You're too serious, brother. You need to be more relaxed, otherwise you will never master it. He thought as he watched the boy he saw as a brother. But that he fell beside the older Jonin. You should pack away that smut and keep training your team, Kakashi, or I will do the former for you, the teen growled. Kakashi jumped as he hadn't noticed the teen landing beside him. Fast as lightning he put the book in his pouch and stared at the teen wide-eyed. Naruto, when did you get here? He asked startled. I observed your team's training for half an hour before I talked to you, he stated calm and continued to look at the two genin. And what do you think? Kakashi asked nervous. I think we need to have a serious talk when we return to the leaf, Naruto explained with a eerie calmness. Kakashi gulped at the thought of a serious talk with the vampire teen. Don't worry, I will take Sakura under my tutelage for a while. You take Sasuke's training serious for once. The two are far behind the other teams. Once I finished my training with Sakura, she will be a real kunoichi. With her being stronger, she and Sasuke can be a real team, Naruto explained and stared off in the distance. Are you sure? I don't think the council will allow that, Kakashi whispered. I give a fuck what the council says. If they try anything, I will expose all of their dirty little secret. After all, Jiraiya isn't the only one with a big spy network. The teen smiled, letting one of his fangs poke out between his lips. And by the way, I have the old man on my side, so they won't be a problem at all. He finished and pushed himself off the tree. Oh, and tell the two to get some rest. We will meet Zabuza and his associate tomorrow, he said and puffed out of existence. The shadow clone. I didn't even notice it. I thought he was the real one. Kakashi thought a bit down at being tricked like that. I guess I will break the news to them once we get home. He sighed and pushed himself from the tree. But that Kakashi called his team to call it a day and they left to get some rest. The next afternoon, Team 7, Naruto and the workers worked on the bridge waiting for the start of the next events. Nobody except the Jonin noticed the suddenly thickening mist around them till it was too late. Kurigakure no Jutsu was heard by the ninja and everyone was on the feet. Should Zabuza already hear? Sasuke whispered to no one in particular. Doken no Seijin Jutsu, Naruto whispered without anyone hearing it. Don't worry, Sasuke. I have it already covered, Naruto stated calm as he pulled out a cigarette and lit it. That earned him a scowl from the black-haired teen. Naruto, since when do you smoke? He asked. I started shortly after the Shinigami turned me into a vampire, he explained calm and took a deep breath. The kiddo is right, Naruto. You shouldn't smoke, came a eerie calm voice from before them. Everyone tensed while the teen just smiled. Well, hello, Zabuza. I can smoke whatever I want. I can't get sick from it anyway, he shrugged as the two ninja became visible before him. Naruto, what's going on here? Sakura asked, confused. Oh, we are planning a big celebration soon, and now only the guest of honor is missing, he smiled evil. How long do we have to wait? Zabuza asked, feeling a bit uneasy at the teen's grin. He should be here in about 10 minutes, Naruto shrugged and sat down while he unpacked a small scroll. What's that? Zabuza asked, curious. Naruto just smiled and unsealed a shogi board. Wanna play a game, Zabuza? He asked with a big smile. Everyone's sweat dropped at this but said nothing. Zabuza just shrugged and sat down before the teen and looked at the board. Everyone watched how the two ninja played their game of shogi and how easy the two seemed to take it. Minutes later, Zabuza groaned and leaned back, staring at the mist-covered sky. Your way to good boy, Zabuza sighed. I play shogi since I was 7. So I have some experience after all, Naruto shrugged. The sound of marching feet interrupted Zabuza's answer. I guess they are here, Naruto sighed and resealed the shogi board. He flicked the cigarette away and stood up, stretching his back. What kind of demon are you anyway? You can't even defeat some kids, a haughty voice taunted through the mist as it began to lift. Everyone stared confused in the direction of the voice. Don't worry. It's a Jinjutsu I casted when Zabuza casted his Kurigaku no Jutsu. Okay everyone, let's take a seat and enjoy the show. Naruto smiled and leaned against the fence. The whole village stood at the end of the bridge just as Gato and his army marched past them, not really acknowledging them. They watched a bit sad at how the ninja were fighting each other. Tsunami stared sadly, hoping that Naruto knew what he was doing. Gato stared at how beaten his hired ninja looked and laughed inwardly. Ah, I knew it was a good idea to not pay this idiot. He thought smugly. What kind of demon are you anyway? You can't even defeat some kids, he taunted, and the beaten ninja looked at him. What do you want here? Gato, Zabuza growled. Ah, I knew it was good to never pay you, the midget laughed. You damn, Zabuza started but began to cough blood. Gato laughed hysterical while his man stayed silent but smirked. Suddenly the vision of the battle vanished and showed a complete new one. There sat the Konoha ninjas along with Zabuza, Haku and the bridge workers and looked at Gato amused. The fat midget stumbled backward with horror written at the new scene. What is going on here? He stuttered as he fell backwards. It's a Jinjutsu, one of his men smiled as he eyed the man in amusement. What do you mean? He demanded from his thug. It's a ninja technique to create illusions, another thug shrugged with an eerie smile. Suddenly Gato noticed that his whole army stared at him with this eerie calm smile, and it made him uneasy. What are you guys smiling at? He demanded as he stood up again. Oh, we are having so much fun. Sadly it's over pretty soon, a third thug explained with a sad sigh. What? Gato demanded but was interrupted as his whole army was covered in smoke. Seconds later the smoke cleared and gasped a breathtaking view. There where his army stood before was now army of the blonde boy that sat with the other ninjas. Gato whirled around and stared at said ninja. The Konoha ninjas and villagers were also confused while Zabuza just chuckled. Not bad, boy. You switched the whole army with your clone, he smiled and stood up to stretch his back. The AI did that the first night we came here, Naruto smiled and lit another cigarette. Team 7 stared at him astonished. So that's where you went that day, Kakashi sighed. Of course. I raided the midget's mansion and freed the slaves before I casted a Jinjutsu over the whole building, Naruto shrugged and took a deep breath before he blew a cloud of blue smoke in the air. Gato meanwhile was fuming. If what the kid said was true, then everything he had gained was taken from him without even noticing it. What did you do with the real army? Naruto Sakura asked, a bit afraid of the answer. But you really have to ask Sakura. He blew out another cloud. She just shook her head and kept silent, turning a bit pale. Oh, you have so much talent. Why are you wasting it? Naruto thought sadly. Now Gato, let's end this. Naruto pushed himself off the fence and faced the man. Before Gato could answer, he found that he couldn't move. What is going on here? He thought, afraid. Everyone watched as a shadowy arms came from the midget's shadow and propped themselves on the floor. They heaved a equally shadow-covered body from the man's shadow. The figure was definitely a human and had wide eyes. When the upper body had emerged, it stopped being human. There was no lower body. The figure just stretched and rose behind Gato, laying its arms over the midget's. Well, Gato. How about I introduce you to one of my abilities? Naruto called casually. The figure stretched his neck till it went over the man's shoulder and faced him fully from the front. Think Orochimaru when he stretches himself. Gato felt like shitting himself but had no control over his body. Come on, my boy. Finish it, Naruto called to the shadow, which turned to him and nodded as an eerie white glowing smile appeared on its face. But that it formed a shadow kunai and put it in Gato's hand. Slowly he guided the man's arm upwards towards his throat. Gato stared at the knife with fear in his eyes. He wanted to plead for mercy, but he still couldn't move. Then the kunai reached his throat and touched his sweating skin. The shadow looked at his boss for a last confirmation and got a nod. But that he pulled back the kunai and rammed it into the midget's throat. A painful gurgling came from him as he slit his throat from one side to another. The sickening sound reached everyone because the villagers had walked over to see what was going on. Everyone turned pale as they saw the violence that the shadow displayed. Some even threw up. Finally the smile on the shadow grew even bigger as he ripped the jacket open, revealing dozens explosive tags. Naruto cheered with an evil smile. The tags ignited and exploded. The explosion ripped the man apart and covered the area in gore and innards. The tyrant Gato was gone and done for. Everyone stared at this show of violence in disbelief, but soon some clapped. The clapping soon changed into cheering. "You are pretty brutal, my boy," Zabuza smiled while he threw Sakura a sad look, seeing her puke over the bridge side. "I hope she gets in shape soon," he whispered. "Don't worry. She will." Naruto smiled as a shadow hushed into his own. "What's that?" Sasuke asked as he noticed the shadow. "That was the shadow I used to control Gato. He was somewhat of a shadow clone made from my powers." Naruto shrugged and rolled his shoulders as if they were stiff. "Come on, let's party for tonight," he called and walked to the cheering villagers while the army ended their existence in a big firework for everyone. The teen groaned a bit as he gained their memories but just shook his head. "Thanks for stopping the flow of memories, Ni-chan," he thought. "Don't worry, Ataudo." Konami smiled. He walked by and picked up a scroll one his clones had dropped and smiled. Everyone walked into the village where Naruto unsealed the content on a table. It was all the food and drinks his clone had taken from Gato's mansion. "Come on everyone. Let's party," he yelled and everyone cheered. The party was big. Bigger than everyone could remember. This was awesome. The children soon joined in and partied. As Naruto's clones brought the freed women from the forest, tears flowed from many. Seeing lost family members and friends. While everyone celebrated, Naruto walked up to Tazuna. "Hey old man," Naruto greeted. "What's up, kiddo?" He laughed, slightly drunken. "I have something for you," he smiled and handed the man a scroll which he eyed confused. "What's that?" He slurred a bit. "It's all the money Gato took from Wave with interest and all documents of Gato's company," he smiled and Tazuna's face fell for a second. He seemingly sobered instantly at the teen's words. While he tried to make sense. "That's not all." Naruto smiled and leaned forward. "I have gotten a word to the fire daimyo a few days ago and he likes my idea," he whispered to the now sobered man. Tazuna looked at him confused. "He acknowledges my idea of giving you the title of the Wave daimyo. He also got the other daimyos to like the idea." He smiled at the shocked expression on Tazuna's face. "Do you?" he stuttered. "You just have to sign these papers and you are officially the new Wave daimyo." The teen shrugged and pulled out a document. Right then and there the man fainted. Tsunami looked at her father and Naruto confused before he nodded to her to come over and explain what he told her father. He also handed her the documents along with the scroll he picked up from Tazuna. "I think you should take control of Gato's company from now on. I think it would be the best for Wave if you continue it." Naruto smiled and went to have a blast himself, leaving a stunned Tsunami behind. Meanwhile Inari stared at Naruto the whole time. He had tried to follow him the whole time but failed miserable as the teen moved faster than he could. After Naruto's little speech at the beginning of his stay, Inari had thought about it. Sadly Inari had to acknowledge that he was right and tried to better himself. He had stopped thinking so negative and began to support his mother more. The next morning the whole village was silent. Everyone slept on the floor with happy smiles on their faces. They had a blast. It was the best party they had even from before Gato came around. Naruto sat under a tree and looked at the scene with a genuine smile. Zabuza walked out behind a tree and sat bedside the teen. "So what are you going to do now, Zabuza?" he asked the missing nin while passing him a scroll. "I don't know. I think Haku and I will join the resistance in Kiri," he shrugged. "Oh, don't worry about that." Naruto sighed and leaned back. "What do you mean?" Zabuza asked, curious after he packed the scroll. "You didn't read my bingo book entry seriously, did you?" the vampire asked with a sigh. "What do you mean?" the swordman inquired again. "I have killed Yuguru a while ago. Mei-chan is the Gade Mizukage now. The war ended months ago. I thought you knew that and stayed only for the money." Naruto shrugged, ignoring the shocked expression on the man's face. "But what about the Sanbi?" Zabuza wasn't sure if he actually wanted to know. "Don't worry about him. He's sleeping right now." Naruto shrugged. "What do you mean?" "I sent him back to God's realm where he will live in peace like he always wanted," Naruto explained casually, as if he was talking about the weather. There was a sudden silence between the two and they just stared at the passed out villagers before them. "Oh, that reminds me," Naruto began and Zabuza turned to him. "Mei-chan says that you should move your sorry ass back to her or she will make fricassee of your manhood when she sees you again. You have 4 months." "Oh, that was 3 months and 2 weeks ago." The teen snickered at the fearful look on the man's face. "I have to go," was all Zabuza said and jumped up. He ran to Haku, picked him up and dashed away like a madman, hoping to get to Kiri before his time limit was over. Though Naruto could have sworn that he heard him mutter something. "I will kick your ass for this when I see you the next time, brat," the man cursed and soon vanished from Naruto's sensor area. "I guess things will get interesting." He smiled and closed his eyes with a calm smile. "You can say that again, Ataudo. I just hope that you won't piss of someone stronger than you with your attitude." Konami sighed at her surrogate brother's actions. Hey, I united the revolution army along with Mei-chan and ended the bloodline purge in 3 weeks and beat some sense in your brother before I sent him home. Naruto tried to defend himself. I know, but I'm just worried about you Itato. Konami sighed sad. Don't worry Ni-chan. I won't go down so fast. He tried to cheer her up. I know. I'm still afraid that something could happen to you Naruto. She sighed again and closed the connection. I will do everything to make you happy again Ni-chan, even if I have to make a 180 degrees turn. I don't want you to be sad. He thought sadly not knowing that Konami listened to him with a slight blush. I hope you can do it Naruto. She thought with a small smile. Team 7 and Naruto stood before the Hokage and waited for the old man's sign to start their report. So how did it go he suddenly asked not looking up from his work. Pretty good even with us running into the Demon Brothers and Zabuza. We also eliminated Gato, and thanks to the other daimyos, Wave has a new one of their own Naruto shrugged casually, not really showing any respect to his leader. Everyone in the room stared at him like he was crazy. He has balls of steel to talk to the Hokage like this. Kakashi thought. You should really respect you elders Naruto. Hiruka thought as he rubbed the bridge of his nose. Naruto Nai-san is awesome to be able to talk to the Hokage like this and go unpunished. Sasuke smiled at his brother in everything but blood. Sakura only stared empty-minded not really knowing what to think of. Meanwhile Sarutobi only chuckled. Okay then, I will upgrade the mission to A rank under supervision of Uzumaki Naruto. You are dismissed he smiled and held up a copy of the scroll he had given the team before they had left. Thanks you Hokage-sama old man everyone bowed, but not without Naruto gaining a glare from the Chunin teacher. Before we leave I have a request for you, Hokage-sama Naruto stated serious making everyone look at him because he used his leader's honorific. What kind of request Sarutobi narrowed his eyes, knowing that the boy would only speak like that when it was something important or uncommon. I ask of you to disband Team 7 temporarily because I want to take Haruno Sakura under my tutelage for 3 months to get her into shape. Right now she is just barely above a first-year academy student he explained, gaining a wide-eyed stare from everyone, while Sakura just hung her head in depression. Furthermore I wish for Haddock-san to take Uchiha-san's training serious and teach him the ins and outs of the Sharingan and most importantly not to rely on its abilities only he continued and Sasuke smiled that his brother still cared for him. After 3 months of training I wish for you to reinstate Team 7 just in time for the upcoming Chunin exam. Also somewhen during that time I wish to leave the village with my student due to important mission regarding my guardians, he finished with his arms crossed over his chest. Cassius and Sarutobi's eyes widened at the mentioning of his guardians. They knew of both and feared them. One was obviously the great Kyuubi itself and the other was the one that took his family from him but gave him a new power in exchange. The Shinigami herself. While what kind of mission the Hokage tried not to stutter. Sakura and Sasuke looked at their leader confused not knowing what could make him so afraid. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, but I don't have the permission to talk about it freely, but if you wish you can ask my sister Naruto smiled devilish at the mentioning of his sister, making them pale a bit. But Naruto you don't have a sister Sasuke stated firm. Not one running around you are right the young Jonin smiled. That confused the teens even more. Naruto on the other hand just looked at Sarutobi who nodded in agreement and he closed his eyes to let his sister take over. As he opened his eyes again they lost their shining blue color and were replaced with glowing red eyes with slitted pupils. Well hello again Sarutobi. I see you are doing good a powerful female voice came from Naruto's mouth. Hello Kurami-sama the old man shuddered under her gaze. Oh no need to be so uptight little one. I mean no harm to anyone at the moment. You can call me Kurami-chan like my Itato she smiled as her eyes softened. Man. I will call Naruto she as long as Kurami is in control. Very well then Kurami-chan the old man coughed. So what is this mission Naruto spoke of he found his composure again. Ah the mission. She mused for a second. She wants us to find my clan for an important mission. I'm sorry but I can't say any more she chuckled. So when will this mission start then he asked. She will visit and tell us when everything is ready Kurami smiled. Very well then. I grant Uzumaki Naruto and his temporary student Haruno Sakura traveling rights for 3 months. Everything longer than this will be handled like an attempt to defect from the village. Team 7 will temporarily be disbanded and Uchiha Sasuke will be placed under the tutelage of Hada Kakashi, the Hokage stated serious as he eyed the mentioned 2 people. Sakura just stood there in shock while Sasuke tried to wrap his mind around the fact that his brother seemingly had a sister and that she lived inside of him. Kakashi just sighed knowing that if he didn't take Sasuke's training serious, Naruto would kill him if his family didn't find him first. Haruka was frozen in his place since Kurami took her brother's body. He knew of the Kyuubi, but not that the two called each other siblings. To be honest he was about to piss himself because he stood in front of the very thing that killed his parents and was too afraid to even move a muscle. To his fear she turned her sight to him. The serious look vanished and made place for a sorrowful one. I'm sorry Haruka. I know I can't undo what I did back then, but I hope we can somehow move on and try to be at least on a neutral level with each other. If we can't be friends, she bowed to him. He tried to answer, but he didn't trust his voice. So he only nodded just as she rose her head again. She gave him a soft smile. Thank you, Iruka, she smiled and turned to the Hokage. I guess I should go back now. Naruto is getting hungry, she smiled, getting a shiver from the people. With that, she closed her eyes again and let Naruto take over again. You said everything you wanted. He thought, his eyes still closed. Yes. Thank you. With it, she went to sleep. I guess you want to know about another case, the Hokage asked, knowing that Naruto was already back. No, he smiled and opened his blue eyes. I have enough food in my scrolls at the moment. After draining a whole army of thugs, I have enough for a while. He shrugged and turned to the door. I will see you later, old man and Haruno, he stated without turning around. Why yes, she stuttered. Come to my compound tomorrow morning 0800. We will start your training at my private training ground. And pack enough clothes for 3 months because you will stay at my compound till you finished your training. No useless stuff. He explained and held a piece of paper towards her, still looking at the door. She took it and saw a address on it. And don't be late. You can ask Kakashi what happens to slowpokes, he growled and looked over his shoulder with his eyes glowing white. Hi. She yelled and bowed deeply. But that the young Jonin left the office to make preparations for his new student. There was a heavy silence in the room. Everyone stared at the door and the still bowing Sakura. She finally straightened herself and looked at her now former sensei. Kakashi-sensei? What did Naruto mean, she asked, unsure. Kakashi just shivered but lifted his shirt halfway up, showing a scar around his waist and a heavily scarred back. Sakura gulped while Sasuke eyed them curiously. I was once late to a meeting with him and he tied me up with ninja wire. Then he tied a wire rope around my waist and dragged me across the training ground and across the village in inhuman speed for 4 hours. I was sent to the hospital for a month because of that, and as if that wasn't enough, he also burned all my books, so I had nothing to do but stare at the white walls the whole time, he explained and wailed at the end. The teens looked at him in shock and a bit of disgust because of his books. Sakura shivered at the thought of this happening to her, so she made a promise to herself not to be late under any circumstances. Naruto walked through the town, ignoring the glares some of the people sent him, and made his way to his most favorite spot. The Firefly Cafe. It was just across from the store his friend worked at part-time. As usual, he ordered a small coffee and took his seat. Without anyone noticing, he slipped a sip of blood into his coffee and stirred it. His eyes wandered to the blonde girl hurrying through the flower store and taking care of the plants. Flashback, Naruto age 6. It was late and already dark outside. A blonde girl hurried through the streets to get home. She had the feeling that she was being followed. A shiver ran down her spine at that thought, so she hurried even more. Suddenly a pair of big hands grabbed her, covering her mouth and dragged her in a dark alley. She struggled and tried to yell for help, but the hand over her mouth muffled any noise she could make. You better stay quiet, cutie, or we will hurt you, a rough male voice whispered near her ear. The smell of alcohol and the fear froze her in shock. A few voices snickered around her and 3 men stepped into her sight. They were all tall and heavy built and most obviously drunk. Come on, what's taking you so long? Strip, the already one snarled. Tears gathered in the girl's eyes and she tried to break free of her captor's grip, but to no avail. One of the thugs grabbed her top and ripped it apart. A muffled scream escaped her as her body was exposed to these lowlifes. I'm first, a bald man slurred. He unzipped his pants and was let them fall to his ankles. Mommy. Daddy. Help. The poor girl wailed in her mind and pressed her eyes shut. The man bowed over her, preparing himself for his sick pleasure, as a sudden yell of pain came from him. The girl felt warm liquid drop on her and she shuddered even more. The men that were standing guard whirled around and stared at their now physical incapacitated leader. Behind him stood a red-haired kid with a weird sword. He had just cut off the thugs, making him whimper in pain and holding his now unusable groin. You little piece of, one of them yelled and charged forward with a bottle in hand to attack the kid. With a slow sidestep, the kid evaded the attack and cut the man's head off. Everyone stared at him in shock. Then the shock turned into anger. They all stormed towards the kid hoping to kill him. Seconds later they were all slaughtered and only minced meat. He swung his sword to the side, cleaning it of these lowlifes' blood. Whirling it by the ring on the handle, he put it away in a fast move and turned to the nearly fully exposed girl. She had opened her eyes again as everything felt silent. She witnessed how he swung his sword to the side like a professional swordman, cleaning it of the blood. That made her look around, still afraid and nearly gagged at the sight of the dead men. Steps caught her attention and she turned to the sound. The boy was walking towards her with his eyes shadowed as he took off his coat. She shuddered again, thinking he wanted to attack her too, and tried to crawl away only to be enveloped into a warm feeling. Her fearful eyes wandered upwards and met calm blue ones. The boy had wrapped her up in his coat. Before she could understand what was going on, he lifted her up bridal style and jumped towards a roof. She clawed herself onto him and closed her eyes. Not even a minute later the movement stopped, but she didn't dare to open her eyes. The blonde felt her savior's body shift a bit and a knocking sound was heard. Seconds later the door opened and a tall man emerged the door. "Ino," he yelled as he saw his daughter in the boy's arms whimpering with blood in her hair. A felt nanosecond later a woman stood in front of the boy and grabbed the girl from him and vanished into the house again. The boy just stood there with a dumbfounded expression on his face, only to be lifted up by his collar. He came face to face with a very angry father. "What did you do to my daughter?" he yelled at the top of his lungs, not being able to control his anger. "I did nothing to her, Yamanaka-san. I only saved her from being raped by some worthless thugs," the boy explained, calm, not even shocked by being yelled at. Yamanaka and Noichi stared at the boy dumbfounded till a new flame of hatred flickered in him. "Where are they?" he yelled. "Minced meat and meeting the Shinigami," he explained, emotionless, holding the man's angry glare. Noichi sighed and set the boy down. "Thank you for saving my daughter, Naruto-kun," he bowed to the boy. Here his wife never hated the boy for being a Jinchuriki. In fact, they were one of the few supporters he had in the village because of their relationship with his parents. Not that the boy knew this, but he accepted their help when it was given. "Don't think too much of it, Yamanaka-san. I only did what I thought was right. She is too pure to be defiled by such lowlifes. With that I have to excuse myself because I'm leaving the village with my godfather tonight." He bowed and walked away, leaving a surprised man behind. "So that pervert has finally enough guts to come back here after 6 years. Inoichi growled but turned to more important matters, namely his daughter. Ino had recovered from her traumatic experience and had developed a big crush on her savior. From her parents she had learned that his name was Uzumaki Naruto. What depressed herself a bit was that she never got to thank him because he left the same night he saved her. Now 13 years old, she sat in the classroom of the academy ready to take the genin exam. Unlike many girls, she didn't ogle Sasuke, which made her a good person in the Uchiha's book. The two had become great friends after they found out that they both cherished Naruto. To Sasuke he was a brother and to her the love of her life. Sasuke even encouraged her to talk to him once he returned. Despite her crush on the redhead, she had a boyfriend at the moment. She hoped to get some experience in handling such a relationship and her parents had encouraged to do so. Even if her dad was a bit childish when it came to such things. But today was something else going on beside the genin exam. Naruto was coming back to the village from what Sasuke had told her. "Okay brats. Let's start the written part of the exam," Mizuki yelled in a fake happy tone. Everyone glared at him, making his smile sink. Suddenly the door opened and a teen with black leather clothes, a Konoha hoodie knitted onto his belt and a badass huge sword stepped in. Ino's and Sasuke's eyes lit up as they saw him. The teen's red hair was unmistakable. "Naruto," they yelled with a big smile. He gave both of them a big smile before he stepped aside to evade a giant shuriken fly past him. Everyone stared at the scene and their eyes wandered to their sensei Mizuki. The man growled that the teen had evaded his attack and charged forward with 2 kunai in his hands. Naruto simply jumped over him and made a twist in the air to deliver a sideway kick to the Chunin's head. The power behind the kick was enough to make Mizuki fly into the wall, creating a huge crater in it as he met it head first. The man sunk to the ground, barely being able to hold on to consciousness. "Mizuki, on orders of the Sandaime Hokage, you are to be arrested and brought to the T&I department under the suspicion of treachery and cooperation with the traitor Orochimaru," Naruto stated, cold and emotionless, making everyone shiver. Mizuki tried to stand up but couldn't find the strength to do so he just gave the teen the middle finger. Naruto picked him up by his throat and lifted him off his feet. "Fuck you, demon, you have no authority over me," he tried to glare but failed miserable. "On the contrary, I have all the authority I need. I am a special jonin and I am acting on the orders of the Hokage himself. That is more than enough to take you down. But now that you have resisted arrest and broke the Sandaime's law, I have the authority to kill you," Naruto explained as his eyes turned white, not that anyone beside Mizuki saw that. But that the teen ripped the Chunin into pieces, gaining many gasps and gagging noises from the teens. Jiraiya leaned in the door and sighed at the mess. The ripped apart Mizuki began to sink into the shadow of the room and left no trace behind. Naruto turned to Iruka and bowed. "I'm sorry for disturbing the exam and damaging your classroom, Iruka-san. Please continue what you were doing. I will pay for the repairs." He then turned and walked to the door. "I'll see you two later," he smiled and looked toward Sasuke and Ino. But that he left the class to their exam, not that anyone really noticed it. "You're so awesome, Naruto-kun," Ino thought with a crimson blush because he had met her eyes despite his cruel actions just now. She had seen the cruel reality as she visited her father at work a few years ago. Since then she had steeled herself to the real life of a shinobi. "You're already a special jonin. I guess I have some training to catch up on. But it's good to have you back, Nai-san." Sasuke smiled, not noticing the glares his fangirls through the door Naruto had just left through. That bastard took all of Sasuke-kun's attention. "He's mine," was their common thought. They didn't even realize that had just murdered a man. Iruka-sensei, who was that? Kiba asked, confused, still shivering. That was the bloody fang of Konoha, Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka smiled as he remembered his talk with the Hokage a few days earlier about the boy's return. He was one of the few people who cared about the boy when he was little, but he couldn't take him in because the civilian council didn't allow it. Seeing him like this was a bit disturbing, but the nod Jiraiya had given him soothed his worries of the Kyuubi having taken over the teen's mind. Hey, I have heard of him. He is supposed to be the only one in Konoha's history to have a bingo book entry at the age of 7. He is supposed to be a bloody monster. Choji yelled, letting his bag of chips fall to the table in shock, already a bit green from the previous scene. He is supposed to be a A-rank ninja if I remember correctly, Shino stated monotone, though if you would look closely you could see him shaking. Everyone fell silent. Nobody knew how to deal with this. If that was true, then they just now witnessed one of the greatest shinobi of their era do his work. Heck, the boy was their age and was already so famous. Ino giggled at their expression because she had kept a close eye on Naruto's career outside the village through gossip and his bingo book entry. Sasuke just smiled, but inwardly he was shocked. He hadn't known that his brother was so famous. He knew that Naruto had a bingo book entry, but he neglected to look at it because he wanted to hear all the awesome stories from him personally. Yes, I will ask him about it later. He sighed and turned his attention to the task at hand. Okay kids. Let's continue with the test, Iruka yelled, gaining many groans from his students because many were too distracted from the young Jonin's appearance that they forgot most of the stuff they had learned for the exam. Iruka only smiled as he saw their distress. He knew that Naruto's entrance had a subtitle. It was a test of its own to see if the upcoming Genins had it in them to concentrate even when something surprising like this happened. Though he was surprised that Mizuki was a traitor and how Naruto had dealt with him. He and his co-sensei hadn't gotten along for a while now because Mizuki seemed more ferocious lately. The man had seen his fair share of death, so he wasn't really bothered by it. Flashback end. Hey Naruto, someone called and he snapped out his thoughts. He looked up and saw his crush standing before him. Her long blonde hair loose over her back. The big smile on her lips warmed his heart. Hey there Ino-chan, he waved and she took a seat beside him. Since when are you back, she asked, propping her head in her hands. A few hours ago. I just got out of a meeting with the Hokage, he sighed and took a sip from his coffee. So how did it go, she asked, eager to hear of his mission. It went smoothly. We had a run-in with the Demon Brothers and Zabuza, but the latter backed off because of my reputation. We even freed the Wave Country from a tyrant, he shrugged with a smile. You lucky bastard, she whined with a cute pout. Don't worry Ino-chan. I'm sure you will have your own awesome mission soon enough, he smiled and patted her head. Her smile brightened up and enjoyed the feeling, but she noticed something in her friend's behavior. What's wrong Naruto, she asked, worried. It's nothing, I just told the team about my Kekkei Genkai, he explained with a sigh. And how did they react, she asked, worried, getting a hold of his hand. I think they took it well, but I'm a bit worried, he sighed again and leaned back against his chair. Don't worry about it. I'm sure that everything will work out, she soothed her friend. Thank you Ino-chan, he smiled and gave her a small fanged smile. You should get some rest. You look like the living dead, she gave him a small chuckle which he returned because of her joke. Will do. Don't overwork yourself and greet your parents from me, he smiled and set a Furio on the table. See you later Naruto, she waved and ran back to the flower shop. Naruto's eyes followed her retreating form. His eyes stopped on a flower pod that held an aloe plant and frowned as his thoughts went to Ino's current boyfriend. Shikamaru was a nice guy, but something seemed to be off on him lately. The redhead had met him shortly after he had graduated, and despite his anger for being with his crush, he liked the guy quite a bit. He was smart and calm, maybe a bit too lazy for his taste. But lately he seemed to be distracted by something and left Ino to herself more and more. Maybe I'm seeing a bit too much into it. He shrugged and vanished in a lightning shunshin to get some rest at his compound. Hey mom, I'm going to stay with my new Jonin sensei till the beginning of the Chunin exam in 3 months. He is going to teach me a lot of new stuff, Sakura yelled as she ran upstairs and began to pack her stuff, always remembering her warning. What do you mean new Jonin sensei, Haruka Haruno called after her and followed her. Well, I got a new sensei. He promised me to make me stronger so that I could make Chunin in the exams in 3 months, she explained, packing her stuff into her traveling bag. Why do you have to stay with him then? You can always go to meet him, her mother asked, confused. Well, he wants to start early and he lives on the other side of Konoha. So going there every day would take too long. Plus we are leaving the town somewhen during training to get some experience, Sakura explained with excitement. Oh? This new sensei sounds like someone really strong, Haruka teased. Well yes. He is the bloody fang of Konoha after all, the teen shrugged and mother froze up. She knew who hid behind the alias and she hated him with a passion. Why do you want to train with him, she hissed at her daughter. Sakura looked at her mother confused. One moment she was happy and then she got angry. Does she have a problem with Naruto-san? She thought. Well, the Hokage ordered me to train under him, the bubblegum girl shrugged. Well then that sounds reasonable, Haruka hissed with venom, thinking on how to rip the Hokage a new one. Well mom, I need to prepare some stuff for tomorrow. Do you need anything else from me, she asked her fuming mother. No, that's all. With it she stomped outside. What the hell, Sakura muttered looking after her. She then shrugged it off as her mother's usual overprotectiveness acting up again. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Naruto sat in his garden meditating. His mind sorting through the training he had planned for Sakura. He knew she had potential, but how to acquire it. One of her 3 problems was that she's missing physical fitness. The second was that her chakra reserves were a joke, and finally third, she missed creativity. Well, I guess I should go and get some scrolls for her. The ones I have are insufficient at her level, he sighed and created 4 clones. Alpha, you go to Kurenai to get scrolls on basic ninjutsu and some advanced scrolls. Beta, you go to the library and hospital to get books on anatomy and medical jutsu. Teta, you go Anko-chan and get a scroll on poisons. Gamma, you go through my library on Jinjutsu, Medshal Jutsu and poisons. Yes boss. They shouted and vanished in a shunshin. Now then. I guess I should prepare the training gear for Sakura, he sighed, and with a puff of smoke, her unsealed a scroll from the inner pouch of his hakama. He unrolled it and looked over the many different sealing matrix in it. He coated his right fingertips in chakra and began to touch different seals, activating them. 5 puffs of smoke later he rolled the scroll up again. First was a special set of training wrappings with strengthening seals so that they can withstand his training. Second were wrist and ankle bands with gravity seals. Third was a battle kimono specially created for ninja, made from chakra conductive material to harden it if needed. Fourth, a set of training weapons with gravity and strengthening seals. And fifth, a ink set so he can draw seals when needed. He eyed everything calm and collected before he sighed. Okay, this will be some serious training. Sakura will cry for mercy in the evening, he smirked. A static feeling ran over his skin. Wordlessly he created another clone who walked to the front door. Hello Sakura-san, he stated as he opened the door. Hello Naruto-san, she bowed to him. Come in. I will bring you to the boss. The clone stepped aside and let her in. Boss, she asked confused as she came in. I'm only a shadow clone. Naruto is waiting for in the training field. We will leave your bag on the veranda, he stated and guided her to his boss. With a gesture he told her to drop her bag as they passed the veranda and walked out of the house and towards the training field. There she saw another Naruto balancing cross-legged on a bamboo shoot. Welcome Sakura-san. I must congratulate you on your timeliness. You are 15 minutes early, he smiled, but his eyes stayed close. Thank you Naruto-san, she bowed, but blushed at the sound of her rumbling stomach. Well, since you are early I guess there is still time to eat breakfast. He nodded towards his clone and he went to get something to eat. While we wait, let me explain this training to you, he gestured her to sit in front of him. Naruto lifted his right leg from over his left and let it hung loosely downwards so that he only sat on the bamboo with one leg. Then he leaned to the right side and fell. With a twist of his body he kicked the bamboo shoot in the air and landed on his feet. As the shoot came down he caught it in his left and leaned it over his shoulder. Sakura gaped at his acrobatic skills, though they were nothing unusual in their business. With a flick of his wrist a cigarette appeared in his hand and he stuck it in his mouth. With a flick of his fingers, he created a small flame atop his right index finger to light his cancer stick. Shaking his hand he extinguished the flame and took a deep breath. Now listen close. This training will be hell. I have training gear and clothes for you ready. We will start with applying resistance seals to your body, he explained. What kind of seals are that, she asked confused and tilted her head a bit. A resistance seal does just what its name says. It puts a set amount of resistance against each move you make. It would be like walking in water, he shrugged. And how do you apply these seals, she asked confused. With ink on your bare back, he shrugged, taking out an ink can and a brush. She immediately blushed tomato red and her mind went into overdrive. But I don't, she stuttered. Don't worry Sakura-san. I don't plan on taking your innocence, he smirked at her, sputtering. I only need your back bare so I can apply the seal between your shoulder blades. You can cover the rest of your body. Then after the ink is dry you will change into the training gear behind the curtain over there and we will start your training, he explained and pointed towards a tree where a curtain hung over a deep hanging branch. She only nodded and began to open her top. While doing that she turned around and let her top slide downwards and covered her chest with her arms. Well, I didn't meant now, oh well, she can eat after she changed. He thought, surprised. So he set himself to work and began to apply one of his personal resistance seals. This one was stronger than the usual ones. A few minutes later he stopped and eyed the seal for any fails. To his surprise her blush was seemingly so hot that the ink dried instantly. He pressed his thumb against the ink and found it really dry. That's some serious skill. Maybe she has a high fire affinity like me. He thought. Now Sakura-san, please go change into the training outfit I have placed behind the curtain and under no circumstances channel chakra into wild dressing or you could hurt yourself, he ordered, and she hushed behind the curtain, not daring to look at him. A few minutes passed and as she came back and sat in front of Naruto again. He handed her a plate with some rice balls and nodded. Eat up. You will need the energy, he explained, and she nodded thankfully. After she finished her breakfast he placed a plate on a stone behind him and turned to her with a serious expression. Now let's get down to business. You have 3 weaknesses that make you currently unfit to be a shinobi, he stated serious, and she hung her head. The first problem is that you're missing physical fitness. The second is that your chakra reserves are a joke, the squirrel in the tree has more than you, and finally you're missing creativity on the job. His voice was soft, but his words stung like burning needles under skin. Now, don't let this get you down. I will bring you up to my standard. My training will be hard, but it will be worth it, he soothed her and stroked her head. She looked at him surprised but smiled. Now I want you to activate your resistance seal on level 1, he ordered her. How do I do that, she asked confused. Think of a small cup the size of your fist and fill it with chakra, then place this amount into the seal. That is enough to activate it. Then don't move for the next few minutes till the seal attuned to your body, he explained, and she did as she was told. A shudder ran through her body and she stared at him surprised. Don't worry. The seal is only scanning the size of your chakra pool to set a limit for the seal. While building up your chakra pool, the seal will attune itself while you're asleep so that it can set new limits for your training. It might take a minute or so, he explained calm, and waited for the seal to finish its job. While we wait I will explain you how we will work. At first I will bring up your physical strength and your chakra pool, and when I think you have progressed far enough I will start on your creativity. Once I see good progress in all 3 fields I will start on your justice. I will teach you the basics and some advanced techniques of Jinjutsu, medical jutsu and Kinjutsu. But I will only give you a sword if you are worth it, he explained with a dark glint in his eyes at the end. What do you mean worth it, she managed to say as the seal set itself on level 1. The swords I have are special. You could say they are a part of me. By bloody shrugged and rolled his shoulder. How's that, she tilted her head and found it pretty hard to move. The blacksmith who made it used my blood and worked it into the blade. Like this it gained my affinities and made it so that it can only be wielded by me. His eyes darkened as he remembered the perverted blacksmith. That sounds scary, she whispered. Don't worry about it now. You have a long way to go to earn such an honor, stated firm, and she nodded. Now I want you to put the same amount of chakra into each wrist and ankle bands as you did into the resistance seal. This will give you about 20 kilos on each of your limb. After that I will give you 1 hour to get used to the weight before I hunt you around the training ground, he ordered, and she paled. But that's too much, she stuttered. The much you say? Girl, I started with the double weight. Right now my resistance seals, plural, are on level 10. That means 10 times more resistance than you have each. My weights are 500 kilos each limb. So don't whine and start to get used to it. When I'm finished with you, you will carry at least 150 kilos each limb, he stated stern and glared at her. She nodded barely. She couldn't run away from him because she couldn't really move and she didn't know how to deactivate the seals. Plus she was there on the Hokage's orders. I'm so fucked. She whimpered. For the rest of the day Naruto taught her trained the pink-haired girl. Hey, did you hear? The demon is seducing Councilwoman Haruno's daughter, a civilian whispered as she saw the pair walk by. Sakura looked tired and sluggish, while Naruto just walked with an emotionless expression. That demon should have been killed the day he was born, another whispered angry. What are they talking about, Naruto-kun? The girl asked her new friend teacher. Let's just say that your mother should keep her mouth shut before I stuff it with my fist, he growled, making her gasp. What do you mean? My mother is the most loving woman in town, Sakura hissed, feeling insulted that he badmouthed her mother. Sakura, your mother has 2 sides. One you know and one she shows around the village. Let's leave it at that for now. We need to get some stuff, he stated, and they stepped into a shinobi store. Hello Higurashi-san, Naruto greeted the man behind the counter. Hello, Naruto-kun. Who's the little missy with you, he asked with a teasing smile. She's my student, he deadpanned, and the man threw her a worried look. You have my sympathy, girl, he nodded, and she gulped. It's been only 2 days since he started her training, but she already felt herself getting stronger. Thank you, but I don't need it. I have faith in my sensei, she stated proud. If you say so, girl, he shrugged. Hey Tojin. Where is the chakra paper? You out or what? Naruto called from behind a shelf. They are on the top of shelf 3, the man called back. Thanks, came the reply from another shelf than the previous one. A few minutes later he came back with a few pieces of chakra paper and some medical equipment for missions. He put them on the counter and searched for his wallet before he gave Tojin 20 ryo. Keep the change, he smiled at the older man. Thanks man, Tojin laughed and put the stuff in a bag before he handed it to the redhead. Now take this and channel some chakra into it, Naruto ordered his student and gave her a piece of paper from the bag. Sakura did as she was told and watched how the paper began to crumble to dust and partially turned to mud. The high earth affinity for primary and water for secondary, Naruto whistled. Okay, now I know what kind of taijutsu and ninjutsu I can teach you, he explained at her questioning look. What kind of affinity do you have, Naruto-kun, she asked confused. Naruto only shrugged and pulled out another piece of paper and channeled chakra into it. The paper split in the mid before one piece flashed away in a blue flame and the other turned into electric spark. As you can see, I have 3 very strong affinities towards wind, fire and lightning. Practically it means that I can manipulate these 3 elements at will without any jutsu, he stated firm. Awesome, she breathed and Tojin laughed. Yeah, Naru-chan is awesome, he laughed only to be glared at by him. The two left the laughing shopkeeper behind and continued their walk towards Naruto's compound. Again the whispers caught Sakura's attention. Come on, there must be a reason for their behavior towards you, Sakura hissed, daring him to badmouth her mother again. You won't believe me anyway, so I will show you. But I must warn you, what you're about to see and hear will change your world forever. Plus it may even include a S-rank secret with the punishment of immediate execution, he explained serious, and she gulped as she saw how dark his eyes suddenly looked. I swear that I will keep everything I hear a secret, she vowed. Good, but keep your mouth shut under any circumstances, he stated and took her hand before he stepped into a shadow of an ally nearby. He pulled her along and both entered the cloudy world of the shadows. They made their way towards the council chambers till a screen-like window cleared before them and they could oversee the whole room. Sakura gasped as she saw where they were and even more when she saw her fuming mother. I demand that this fucking monster should be killed right this instant. She screamed like a banshee. Stand down, Haruno-san. Fugaku sneered. No, I will not stand down. The Kyuubi is seducing my daughter and I will not allow it. She wailed. Sakura looked at Naruto with a fearful look. He only shook his head looking at her. She then turned back to the council. Naruto, you have broken my law once again. If you don't want to be executed right here and now, you will shut your mouth. The Hokage ordered, releasing some of his killing intent. The woman growled but nodded. Now I don't need to remind you that Naruto isn't the Kyuubi, but its jailer. They are not the same. Shikaku explained while rubbing his temples. Now I know how the others feel when I scream like this. Sakura groaned in her head while rubbing her ears. But Naruto being the jailer of the Kyuubi? How does that work? So he isn't the same. He must be really strong to keep such a beast under control. She looked at her sensei. His eyes glowed wide in anger, but he kept his mouth shut and stared at the meeting. Now back to today's reason for this meeting. Naruto decided to train Sakura for the Chunin exam since he sees great potential in her, the Hokage explained, making Sakura blush at the compliment. Haruka only growled that the demon was training her daughter but puffed her chest that her daughter had potential. Not that anyone cared. Haruno-san must have great potential for Naruto-kun to want to train her, Fugaku explained serious. Of course. She is my daughter after all. She wailed again with a proud smile. And yet you have no skill at all. You are worthless. You only gained the seat in the council due to your deceased husband, Hiashi sneered at her, making her shut up and boil in silence. Now I will say it only once. Naruto will train Sakura till the Chunin exam and that's final, the Hokage growled, shutting all arguments up. Come on, let's go, Naruto whispered, and the window closed again without anyone noticing their presence at all. So you hold the Kyuubi inside you, Sakura asked, trying to comprehend how different her mother was when she wasn't with her. Yes, and in a way you already met her, he explained as they flew through the shadow world. What do you mean no, she asked before she remembered what happened in the Hokage's office 3 days ago. So that was her, she asked, a bit afraid. Don't worry. Kurami Ni-chan is a kind-hearted woman. She only attacked the village because she was under a Jinjutsu, Naruto explained as he opened a pathway for them to step into his house. So is she still your prisoner, the girl asked. Yes and no. She lives inside me but can freely access my senses, he shrugged, and they walked into the kitchen where a clone just set the table for lunch. The two ate in silence. While Sakura tried to understand how her mother could be such a, the redhead rolled himself a few cigarettes before he put them into cigarette case he always carried with him. After lunch the two were about to return to their training to distract Sakura from her mother but were distracted by a cold feeling creeping into the room. Oh wait a minute, Sakura-san. We have a guest, he stated, and the two walked back to the table. While Sakura sat down, Naruto walked to the kitchen and poured in 3 cups of tea. He put all 3 on the table. Sakura eyed the empty seat where the third cup stood. Suddenly a figure became visible on the chair. It was a woman with pale skin, wide eyes and bottom-long silver hair. She wore a white kimono with a red layer beneath. Her smile was calm and her eyes were lidded. Hello Motoko Ni-chan, Naruto greeted her. Hey there Neri-chan, she teased him with a loving smile. Who is that, Naruto-kun, Sakura whispered to her sensei. I am the Shinigami Haruno-san, the guest stated with a carefree smile. Sakura paled as white as chalk and gulped. I think I need new panties. She thought, afraid of the embodiment of death. And I can read minds, the woman deadpan, making her eyes go wide and a blush spread across her face. Now Motoko-chan. No scaring my student, Naruto scolded her in a playful tone. You're no fun, Naru-chan. She pouted and picked up her cup. She began to sip her tea and looked at her avatar in the mortal plane. I guess you are here to inform me about where the Fox clan has moved and that it's nearly time for the ritual, the vampire stated, calm, looking over the edge of his cup. Yes. The clan moved to Land of Whirlpools. You have 2 weeks to find them before the ritual begins, she explained, enjoying her tea. Land of Whirlpools. You got to be kidding me, Naruto sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. What's so special about that land, Sakura asked, confused. The Land of Whirlpools is the origin of the Uzumaki clan, making it Naruto's home and birthright. He is the son of the Whirlpool Princess after all. Even if Uzushio was destroyed years ago, the land is your heritage, Motoko explained, calm, making the bubblegum genin look at her sensei with big eyes. Why did you have to tell her that, Ni-chan? I have been trying to hide this for as long as I can think, till they were ready, he sighed. Till who is ready, Sakura inquired, eager to know. I have a few of the surviving clansmen rebuilding Uzushio to its former glory. But none of them have ever found any sign of the Fox clan, Naruto explained and turned to Motoko. As you know, foxes are tricksters. They can hide pretty well, the woman chuckled. Don't remind me, he sighed, hearing the giggle of his other Ni-chan in his mind. I must leave now, kiddo. See you later. With it she vanished again and the warmth returned to the room. Interesting woman, Sakura stated, absent-minded after a few seconds, already over the shock of meeting the Shinigami herself and survived to talk about it. Yeah, Ni-chan is quite different from her reputation, Naruto chuckled. Now come on, pack up, we have to leave soon. I will send a shadow clone to the Hokage to inform him of our departure, he stated, and Sakura ran to her room to get her stuff, seemingly not bothered by her weights anymore. Interesting. I think I should increase her weights about 5 kilos each. The teen thought before he sent a clone to the old man. He walked into his room to change into his usual leather attire and sealed all necessary scrolls into the seals in his clothes. Carefully he eyed the weapon seal on his right wrist before he decided on the fox fangs hanging on the wall. So he strapped the gun blades to his back and stretched to make sure everything sat right. Okay, everything ready. Just a short detour to say goodbye to Ino and we will be on the road, he muttered and walked into the hallway where he was greeted by the already waiting Sakura. You're fast. I'm impressed, he nodded and she smiled. The two walked out of the compound and Naruto activated the security seals around it to make sure that no one could get inside. They walked in silence. Naruto thought about Ino and his mission, while Sakura smiled widely, thinking on how awesome her sensei was and that she could maybe catch a look at the legendary Uzushio. They stopped before a familiar flower shop. Give me a second, Naruto nodded towards the shop and Sakura accepted it. She didn't know why he always came here but shrugged it off that he liked flowers very much since he had such a great flower garden and took care of it with so much love. Hey there, Ino-chan, he greeted his crush. Hey Naruto-kun. Ino blushed but noticed his attire. Another mission, she asked, a bit sad that he was about to leave again. Yeah, but a private one this time. I have some things to deal with outside the village, he shrugged with a loving smile. So is it true that you are teaching Sakura-chan? Ino teased with a bitter smile. Her heart stung as she asked this, just like it did when she heard the rumor. She knew he didn't like the pink-haired girl, but she couldn't help but feel hurt and jealous by it. Yeah, I took her under my tutelage till the Chunin exam. So you better be ready for when the exam begins, he laughed. His laugh was so warm that she blushed a bit. Don't worry about her getting special treatment. I gave Asuma and Kurenai each a few advices and some equipment on how to step up your training. You will all kick ass in the exam, he encouraged her. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she smiled thankfully. See you when I'm back, Ino-chan. Take care of yourself and tell the white-haired pervert that I will fry his ass if he tries anything. He scowled at the thought of said pervert. Will do, Naruto-kun, she smiled with a blush, thinking about the only situation she would meet the perverted Sannin. Naruto-kun thinks of me in the hot spring, she giggled with a bit of nosebleed. Naruto didn't see it anymore because he already walked outside to meet up with Sakura. He lit himself a cigarette and sighed. Everything alright, Naruto-kun, his student asked. Yeah. I just thought about the mission, he lied, not wanting to reveal that his thoughts wandered back to Ino's beautiful smile. Come on, let's go. They began to walk to the village gate. Oh, and rise your weights by 5 kilos on your wrists and 10 on your ankles, he ordered, making his student groan. But sensei, she whined, only to receive a blank look. She only sighed and pumped more chakra into the seals, making them heavier. With a sigh, she followed her sensei out into the wide world. It's been 2 days since the vampire and his student left Konoha. 2 long and strenuous days of tree hopping. Naruto looked over his shoulder towards his student. Sakura was panting heavy. Sweat ran down her face and her eyes were a bit clouded. She's tired. I guess we should take a break. He thought and rose his right hand in a fist parallel to his body, signaling his student to stop. Sakura looked at the fist like it was mana from heaven. Both student and master stopped on different branches. While she bent forward and pressed her hands against her legs, she began to question Naruto's training method but shoved the thought aside as she saw a bottle flying towards her. With a greedy motion she captured it and downed half the bottle in one go. "You shouldn't drink so fast. You will just get a stomachache," her sensei stated dry as he took a sip from his silver hip flask. "What's in there, sensei?" she asked curious. She had seen the flask a few times but never dared to ask what was inside. "I give you a gulp when we get to Yuzu. Until then you have to be patient." He shrugged and put it back in his jacket. "Can you show me your swords then too?" she asked, eager to see her master's uncommon weapons. "The fox fangs." "Sure, why not? I don't need you to cramp up in shock when I use them anyway," he stated and extended his senses to find one of his spies in the area. A slight motion close to his head caught his student's attention. Naruto rose his right hand and out of the green leaves jumped a dull orange squirrel. It ran down his arm and stopped on his shoulder. It began to squeak into his ear making him nod. The genin watched this confused. Can sensei actually understand a squirrel? She thought confused as Naruto handed a nut he got from seemingly nowhere to the animal before it ran away again. "Okay, Saba found a trace to the Fox clan. We will first go to Yuzu and tomorrow we will begin our search," the redhead explained calm. "You actually understood a squirrel?" Sakura asked confused. "Of course I did. He is one of my spies." He shrugged and turned to look for the direction of Yuzu. "You have spies?" she asked awed. "My spy system rivals that of the Toad Sage Jiraiya. But instead of humans I have all kinds of animals working for me. There's no one who would suspect them to be a spy." The teen shrugged making his student's jaw drop. "Incredible," she breathed. "Come on. It's still some way to Yuzu. We will use Shadow Walk to get there faster. You're exhausted and I want to get there before tonight. You have done good so far so I'm allowing you some rest," Naruto explained serious as he jumped to her. He grabbed her arm and both sank into the shadow of the tree trunk they stood on. The dark fog of the shadow world made it impossible for a commoner to navigate through. The vampire on the other hand just thought about his goal and a window opened before his inner eyes. Like this he saw right where he was going. They flew through the fog in silence. The genin looked around and eyed the strange shadows they passed. She could have sworn that she actually saw glowing eyes in the darkness but shrugged it off as part of her imagination. A window opened before them just a few minutes later. As they stepped out Sakura had to shield her eyes from the bright daylight. As her eyes got used to the light she looked around and gaped at the sight. There all around her stood tall buildings. Each building was as big as the Hokage Tower in Konoha if not higher. From the look of it they were made of glass or something like it. Each building had a 10 feet wide metal rail in the mid running from floor to roof. She saw some kind of shops and a few houses around her. "Come on Sakura. We're going to my place. There you can take a rest while I talk to my people," Naruto stated and jumped to a metal rail and clung to it using chakra. Sakura followed a bit slower because she couldn't help her curiosity and looked all around. "Say Naruto," she began and he looked over his shoulder. "Why are these metal rails on each building?" she asked confused. "They are for ninja use only. Think about it. You let dozens if not hundreds of people run over glass all day long. The buildings would look like shit in no time and not to speak of just graduated genin still learning the wall walking. You saw how hard it was for Sasuke with his high reserves. People could get injured by flying glass shards because of a miscalculated chakra usage," he explained and looked back forward. They jumped over the edge of the roof and ran to the other side of the building. Without looking around the vampire jumped towards the next building. Sakura stopped and hesitated a bit. The distance between the roofs was a bit longer than between branches they used to get here. "Come on Sakura," he called from the other roof. "But I don't know if I can jump this far," she yelled a bit afraid. "It's just like tree hopping. You just have to strengthen your leg and abdomen muscles with your chakra, but this time you have to collect a chakra cushion at the sole of your feet. The moment you jump you have to push off the chakra cushion off towards the roof to accelerate your jump," the Yuzu heir explained patiently. Sakura nodded fearfully and gulped. She took a few steps back before she did as she was told. The chakra in her legs and abdomen felt shaky for some reason. It was as if it was afraid. With another gulp she charged towards the edge and jumped. The new feeling of freedom made her smile. The other edge with her sensei came closer and closer. She smiled till she realized something. She was losing altitude because her eye level was just at Naruto's midsection and she was at least 5 feet away from the other roof. "Kami save me." She sent a quick prayer to heaven as she fell to her death. Strong arms wrapped around her and stopped her fall. Her body was pressed against something hot. She sighed happy. "Are you okay Sakura?" Her sensei's voice ripped her from her thoughts, making her eyes widen. She was wrapped in her sensei's arms and pressed against him. Not trusting her voice she nodded. "Come on then. Let's get going." He smiled for a second before he walked up the wall and sat her down on the roof. With a sigh the vampire opened the chest pocket of his jacket and pulled a headset out of it. Not looking at his student, he pressed a button on it and put it in his right ear. After a short beep, a connection was established. "Naruto here. Connect me to Ta-chan," he stated, getting a confused look from his student. He only pointed at the device in his ear and she nodded dumbly. "Na-chan," a female voice asked through the connection. "Hey Ta-chan. How are you?" He laughed with a genuine smile to his student's surprise. "But good. So why are you calling? Are you in town?" she asked, curious with a bit of hope in her voice. "Yeah, I'm just a few blocks away from the cage tower," he laughed at her giddy squeal. "But don't be surprised. I'm bringing my student with me," he explained, and she stopped flipping and got silent. "You got a student?" she asked, mocking. "Hey, I can be a good teacher," Naruto pouted, making the genin confused on who could make him react like that. "Sure," Ta-chan deadpanned. Okay, let's leave it at that. We will come over in a few minutes," he explained as he reached up for the headset. "See you soon," she laughed, and the connection was terminated. "Who was that sensei?" she asked with a tilted head. "You will see soon." He stretched his arms a bit. "Come on. I will carry you to the cage tower. I don't want my student to crash land after a 5-story deep fall," he explained and crouched down before her. With a reluctant nod, she climbed on his back and wrapped her arms around his neck. "You ready?" he asked. "Why yes," she stuttered at the proximity. With that, he stood up and rushed over the edge of the building towards the 12-story tall building with a red Chinese-styled roof a bit further into the heart of the city. Sakura looked in awe at the city under her and the construction sites everywhere. She even noticed some kind of platforms on all 4 sides of some buildings, shortening the distances between the buildings the closer they got to the cage tower. "So this is Uzushio," she asked, not looking away from the city. "Yes. The people rebuild it quite well. Plus having thousands of super-powered shadow clones running around to help fastens things quite a bit," he shrugged, making her tighten her hold on him a bit. "That's amazing, and no one knows?" she asked, astonished. "Well, Jiraiya and Sarutobi know about it. Then there is Tsunade and you now obviously," he stated dry. Sakura only nodded and kept watching the city. "Okay, hold on tight," Naruto ordered as he prepared a power jump up to the balcony around the top level of the cage tower. Sakura only nodded and held on to him for her dear life. The vampire teen saw this as a sign of her readiness and jumped. They turned into a blur as they shot upwards and past the handrail of the balcony. With a short shifting of his weight, he twisted forward and landed in a crouch. Sakura had her eyes shut tight and clung to him for dear life, not noticing that they stopped moving. "We're there, Sakura. You can let go now," the jonin deadpanned. Her eyes opened and jumped off his back with a deep red blush. After straightening her outfit, she looked at her sensei. He gestured her to follow him and they walked into the top floor. As they passed people, Sakura noticed them bowing to him or greeting him with high respect. With a nod towards a man behind a desk, they entered the Uzukage's office. There behind an enormous desk sat a red-haired teen already waiting for them. "Well, took you long enough, Na-chan," she teased him. "Sorry, I crossed path with a black cat on my way here and had to go all around Yuzu to avoid it," he deadpanned, making Sakura sweat dropped at his Kakashi-like excuse. Kakashi sneezed 2 times. While he rubbed his nose, he thought about it. "Someone just used one of my excuses and talked about me. Maybe Sakura. Nah, she would never use that." He shrugged and returned to Sasuke's training. "Come on, Sasuke. Keep it up. You still have 3 laps to run," he yelled, making the teen grumble. Seriously, the red-headed girl deadpanned. "Nope," he laughed, getting a sweat drop from both girls. "So who is she asked, pointing at Sakura. "Ah yes. This is Haruno Sakura. I have taken her as my student till the Chunin exam in 3 months. Then she will rejoin her teammate who is also being trained in private," he explained, and Sakura bowed. "It's nice to meet you," the bubblegum girl bowed but stopped when she realized that she didn't know the other girl's name. "Well then. Would you do me the honor?" the redhead asked the vampire teen, who shrugged carelessly. "Sakura, let me introduce you to my cousin Uzumaki Taiya. The temporary Uzukage and second clan head of the Uzumaki clan." Naruto introduced his family member. "It's nice to meet you, Uzumaki-sama." Sakura bowed again. "Oh, stop with the formalizations. I hate that crap," Taiya cursed, making Sakura's eyes widen. But she stuttered. "No, but just call me Taiya. You are a friend of Na-chan, so it's alright," she explained with a "if you don't do it, I will ram my foot up your ass so high that you can lick my toes without a problem aura." Sakura only nodded, not wanting to anger the red-headed cage in any way. "So what are you here for?" Na-chan, Taiya asked as she walked up to him and gave him a hug. "I'm searching for the Fox clan. It's almost time," he explained as he returned the hug. "They are here in Yuzu?" she asked, baffled that such a powerful clan had come to the city without anyone noticing before she snuggled into his chest again. "No, they are somewhere in the land of whirlpools. They usually don't come to the city if they can avoid it. He shrugged and slipped out of the embrace much to his cousin's displeasure. So when are you leaving again, she asked, trying to snatch his arm to cling to it. We have 3 months till we have to return to Konoha. Till then we will stay here and train, he explained, calm, moving his arms a bit to avoid her hands. That sounds good. You two will be staying with me then, she stated, firm but with a big smile, but frowned at his escaping arms. If you insist, Ah-chan, he bowed, and she finally caught his arm. Come on, I will lead you to temporary domicile, she smiled and guided the two out of the office. But not before Naruto created a shadow clone to take up the paperwork. Grumbling, said clone set himself to the fight of his life. The three made their way towards the apartment on the floor below. Everyone they passed bowed to the Cage and his cousin. They respected Taiya like their true Cage, but as long as Naruto was in town he was just that. As they stopped before a red door with golden dragons on both sides, Taiya reached for it and poured some chakra in it. A clicking noise was heard and the door opened into the room. Welcome to my modest domicile, Taiya mock bowed to Sakura as she dragged her cousin in. The bubblegum girl shook her head at Taiya's behavior and shrugged it off as her missing Naruto before she followed the two. Inside, she gasped. The room was luxurious furnished. 2 dark red huge 3-seater couch, a 2-seater couch and 3 1-seater. A huge oak couch table with flowers on top of it. The kitchen was made of white marble and being contrasted by the cherry wood floor. Further in she saw 2 huge bedrooms with white oak wood floors and cream-colored king-size beds. Do you like it, Sakura, Naruto asked from the kitchen. She only nodded and watched him fill 3 glasses with his hip flask. He handed one to Taiya while he placed one for Sakura on the bar. With a nod from her sensei, she picked it up and took a sniff of it. The drink looked like liquid gold and smelled like honey. She shook her head thinking it was some kind of juice. In one gulp she downed the glass and put it on the bar again. Naruto and Taiya watched her with a smirk. Why are they smirking like that? She thought, confused before her world began to spin. Before she could do anything else, she collapsed on the floor, all limbs stretched out. Sakura was out like a light. She really can't handle alcohol, Taiya laughed and downed her drink before she pulled another bottle of it from the cooler under the bar. Come on, she's only 12. What did you expect? The mead I make is some pretty hard stuff. Not even Tsunade's best sake can compare to its alcohol level, Naruto shrugged and downed his own glass. We aren't old or not, and she poked his side. But we are already war veteran. I'm a mortal vampire, a avatar of the Shinigami here in the mortal world, who suffered at the hands of humans since my birth. You are a battle-hardened Uzumaki virgin, who has been fighting for survival each day since your birth, till I found you dying in a ditch. We have seen the darkness of this world, and now we create us our own light here in Yuzu, Naruto stated darkly. His eyes spoke of pain just as hers, yet a smile worked itself on her face. You know me, Na-chan. I already found my light, she smiled and cuddled herself in his chest. Her arms wrapped around his upper body and side content. Then her hands began to wander downwards towards his ass, making him flinch. He removed himself from her grasp while shaking his head. Please stop this, Ta-chan. You know my heart belongs to someone else, and we're family, he stated, barely hiding his mirth. I know, but I still want you, she pouted. Cute. Come on, let's drink a bit. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. We could create a harem, for example. If you can convince my crush that is. Naruto laughed and created a shadow clone to bring Sakura to a bed while he and Taiya sat down to take a drink. Taiya blushed at the idea of a harem and jumped on the couch right beside him. Both had a bottle of mead and set themselves to down them while talking about everything that happened since they saw each other the last time. Naruto-sensei, Sakura panted as she leaned against a tree. The two of them had been running through the forest outside Yuzu for days now. To Sakura's dismay, her sensei had ordered her to rise her gravity seals by 5 kilograms each and her resistance seal to level 2 once they left the city. And despite her new weights, he didn't wait around. She didn't know what they were searching, but she knew it was important if Naruto's uneasiness was any indication. Yes, Sakura, he asked calm as he reappeared behind her, making her jump slightly. He always did this, and no matter what she did, she couldn't help but feel freaked out. Can we take a break? The girl panted heavy. Sure. We reached our checkpoint anyway, the vampire sighed. After your break we will start your medicine training, but in the meantime think of efficient Jinjutsu. The man sighed and fell out of the tree. Sakura fell down beside him and leaned against the tree. Her legs shook like a leaf, but she stayed strong and slowly sat down. Here, take a bite. Naruto threw her a bag she caught with a smile. Thanks, sensei. But what do you mean with thinking of a Jinjutsu? She asked, confused as she opened the bag and pulled a piece of dried meat and a bottle of tea out. I want you to think of a new jutsu. A vision you want to show someone. Like I did with Gato. Just use your imagination, he stated as he stared into the woods. But how do I do that? She was confused. Come on, girl. You are young and had a pretty life. Can't you think of something I don't know, a pink fluffy unicorn jumping around on a rainbow?" He shrugged, not looking at her. "But what good would that be?" The pink-haired girl was confused. "That was an example. I have a few evil ones, but I want you to know your own boundaries." The teen sighed and sat on a tree stump. "What kind of evil ones?" she asked with glittering eyes. "One that would shatter your mind by using your worst fear," he stated calm. "I don't understand." She was a bit down that he wouldn't tell her about his jinjutsu. "So one of my worst jinjutsu against women, for example a rape jinjutsu," he sighed, making her gasp. "Boo," but she stuttered in panic. "Like I said before, Sakura. I'm not human. Yes, I despite rapists and such, but that doesn't stop me from using everything I can to get what I want. I have jinjutsu against man and woman. Old and young. I'm prepared for everything, but that doesn't mean that I have to like it." He sighed and finally looked at her. His eyes showed sorrow and anger. It was deep as the sea, making Sakura worry what he had gone through in his life. "Look, Sakura. Just think about your happiest day and try to form illusion from it." He sighed and picked a cigarette from his jacket. "I would like it if you didn't smoke that stuff here," a new male voice said, making Sakura squeak. "I was wondering when you would come out, Kitsune-san." Naruto smiled while putting the cigarette away. "You have sharp instincts, my boy. I guess Kurami-sama likes you quite a lot," he said, and an old man stepped out from behind a tree. He wore an orange cloak with a black dress-like robe under it. His white beard was laced with silver charms. "You could say that. Kurami-ni-chan has been there for me since day one. She protected me from death despite my plea. Without her I would be emotional cripple." The teen explained, serious. "I guess you are here for the ritual?" the old man asked with a soft smile. "Oh? How did you know that?" Naruto asked with a curious smile. "Tomorrow is new moon, and that is the only time to free my lady." He shrugged with a crooked smile. "So then I'm in your care, right?" He bowed to the man who nodded. "Follow me, my boy. Your student can come along if she wants," he said and began to walk away. "Come on, Sakura." Naruto sighed and waved his student to follow him. The girl only nodded and stood up. The three walked in silence through the woods. A suddenly numbing feeling overcame the genin, but the strong hand of her sensei on her shoulder stopped her from falling over. Her eyes fluttered for a few seconds before she was back with them. "Impressive young man," the old man acknowledged. "You really thought S-class jinjutsu could shock me? Sakura is only standing because of my yaki." The vampire shrugged with a smile while Sakura was still shuddering. "Welcome to my village then," the man shrugged. Naruto looked around and whistled while he nudged the girl beside him. Sakura also focused her eyesight and gasped. They stood before a village. It wasn't high-standard buildings like in Uzu or stone buildings like Konoha. They were only straw huts. What caught the newcomers' interest were the interesting features of the people walking around there. Everyone had fox ears on their heads and fox tails over their butt. "What are these people?" Sakura whispered. "Please respect them, Sakura. They are the last of the Kitsune clan," Naruto answered with narrowed eyes. How was her intelligent answer? "We are fox demons." Dear woman in her late 20s answered, making her jump. "Wow, what do you mean?" Sakura gasped. "We are the descendants of Kurami-sama. The last fox demons in all the elemental nations." She smiled kindly. "Oh, yet another intelligent answer. Come on. Follow me, dear host. We have to prepare for the ceremony," the old man stated. "Right, okay." Sakura. Naruto turned to his student. "You will work on your jinjutsu like I told you to. After that my clone will start your training. Your chakra reserves have grown quite a lot, so it's time to start," he explained and formed a shadow clone who stood by her. Naruto followed the old fox to a hut. "Take off your shoes, socks, jacket and shirt. Then sit down in the mid of the room. We will start the preparations for the ceremony," the fox said, and Naruto followed his instructions. The noise behind the teammate gave him notice of another presence. Yet he ignored it and sat down in a meditative stance. "So you are ready?" the man asked. "Yes sir," he nodded, and a young fox woman stepped in his sight. "Hello. My name is Lisa. I'll be the one to apply the ceremonially symbols on your body and web the holy ornaments in your hair," she explained with a smile. "Well, my name is Naruto. It's nice to meet you." The vampire teen nodded, making her blush. Lisa began to apply the symbols of the old Kitsune language in silence. "So what happens during the ceremony?" he asked the old fox. "Well, we will pray the holy chants and break the seal that binds Kurami-sama to you. After that we will extract her essence from you and let her reform her body," he explained calmly. "You know that would kill me, right?" Naruto deadpanned. "But you are no human, so you can survive the extraction," he explained. "Good instinct," the teen guessed. "No, but good nose. You smell like blood and death." "A vampire, I would say," he explained, making Lisa gasp and stumble backwards. "I guess you met someone of my kind before," he asked and got a nod from the man. "By the way, I didn't get your name." "Kitsune-san," the teen asked, calm, not shocked that he freaked the poor fox girl out. "My name is Kenji," he smiled. "Thanks, now back to topic. It is unnecessary to break the seal. Kurami-chan is in me on her own free will because she knows that I'll die if we separate from each other," the teen explained, making Kenji go wide eyes. "So Kurami-sama is in you of her own free will?" he asked, shocked. Yes. She can form a body if she wants to, but we are still connected through a link, the bloodsucker explained. So we can shorten the ceremony by breaking the seal, Kenji asked with a big smile. Yes, but now back to my survival. I know my kind isn't well liked, but since I'm the only remaining one and that Motoko-chan chose me to be one speaks for me, don't you think? He shrugged and looked towards Lisa. I'm sorry if you had any bad meeting with my kind before. I swear that I'm not like the others. He smiled sweetly, showing the minimum of his fangs. Lisa shook her head and didn't say anything before she resumed her work. The old fox looked at him in wonder. Who is this Motoko you speak of? Kenji asked, I wonder, making the teen grin like a fool. Well, the great Shinigami, of course. He gave a fanged smile. Yo, you know the great Shinigami, Kenji stuttered. Hell, he was afraid like hell. It's not every day that you meet someone who knew the Shinigami on first name basis. Lisa was no better, she was frozen in mid-swing of her brush. This man before her was friend with Shinigami, the highest goddess of her clan. Yes, Motoko-chan raised me after I left the village with my sensei. She was like a mother to me. I know that she devoured my parents' souls, but I still love her like my own flesh and blood. She gave me a new life, Naruto explained calmly, putting a hand on Lisa's arm, making her snap out of her stupor. Don't worry, Lisa-chan. Motoko-chan is a really nice woman. That brought a soft smile to her lips. Thank you, Naruto-sama, she smiled. Just call me Naruto, the teen laughed. Interesting kid. Kenji thought with a soft smile. So about the ritual. There is something you should know. He caught both teens' attention. And that would be? Naruto asked, confused. Well, like I said, you will die during the extraction, but you won't stay dead. Kenji gave the teen a toothy smile. What's that supposed to mean? The Jonin narrowed his eyes. You will be turned into one of us. A Kitsune demon, he finished and walked out of the hut. Both teens sat there in silence and tried to comprehend what was just said. Me, a fox demon? Naruto thought, stunned. My Itato becoming a Kitsune? I knew I forgot something. Kurami thought with a smile. Naruto-sama will become a Kitsune like me? She thought with a blush. Oh god, don't tell me that Lisa has a first sight crush on me. The vampire thought, unsure. So a vampire fox demon. Interesting, he muttered, stunned. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Sakura watched her sensei walk away and felt a bit uneasy being left behind between all these Kitsune demons and only to be protected by a shadow clone. Not to be rude, but what's your name, my dear? I'm Uzumaki Naruto, and this is my student Haruno. Sakura. Naruto asked the woman. It's an honor to meet you, Uzumaki-sama. I have heard much about you. My name is Kalela, the now identified Kalela explained. No surname? He asked with a rose eyebrow. Well, we all share the same surname in this village since we are the Kitsune clan. She bowed slightly. I'm sorry for not thinking about this. Naruto bowed slightly, making her blush. There is no need for you to bow, Uzumaki-sama, she sputtered. Please call me Naruto-kun. I'm not much for formalities. The vampire smiled. Say, is there a training ground where I can teach my student without disturbing anyone? He asked with a fanged smile. Yes, there is one over there. Kalela pointed to a field not far from them. Thank you, he smiled and ushered Sakura towards the training ground. Are you sure we are safe here, sensei? Sakura whispered. Please be respectful, Sakura. The Kitsune may be tricksters, but they are honorable people. I would trust them with my life. The Uzumaki clan always had a good connection to the Kitsune clan, since we were the only ones able to bind Kurami ni, he explained as he guided her to a tree. Now you will try to form a Jinjutsu like I told you to. Until you got that I will meditate. You have 1 hour till I test you, he explained calm and sat down beside her. Sakura sat down and tried to form a Jinjutsu like her sensei told her to. The hour passed and a vision formed before her inner eye. So you finally got it? Her sensei broke her out of her thoughts. Her eyes fluttered open and she looked at him. Yeah, I think so, she muttered, a bit tired. Then do your worst. Naruto sighed and turned to face her. Sakura nodded and concentrated on the vision in her head. She began to pump chakra into it and pushed it towards her sensei. Naruto just sat there and lowered his Yaki shield so that her chakra could influence him. His vision blackened till it vanished completely and returned in screaming pink and rainbow color. He watched calmly as an actual pink fluffy unicorn danced over a rainbow. Around it flew all kind of crazy fairies. There was actually background music and to Naruto's dismay it was really disturbing. Okay, this girl is not one for Jinjutsu creation. She has no real imagination. She can learn already created ones, but self-created? Nope. He deadpanned. But the push of chakra, he destroyed the illusion and looked at his eager-looking student. Okay, you can learn Jinjutsu and make them quite realistic, but you are not one to create ones, he explained, making her slump a bit. Don't worry, Sakura. Not everyone is made for Jinjutsu. That's why I will teach you the basics of medicine jutsu, anatomy, chakra scalpel, and the mystic palm jutsu. I think you will have a better feeling for it, he explained, making her smile. He unsealed 9 scrolls and handed them to her. These are 2 scrolls for anatomy, 2 for basic medicine, 3 on poison, 1 on chakra scalpel, and the mystic palm jutsu he explained, and she opened the anatomy scroll. At the end of the trip you will have the basics down. After the Chunin exam I will ask Tsunade to come back to Konoha and take you as her apprentice, Naruto explained, making her drop the scroll. You know Tsunade-sama, she squealed. Of course I know her. Did you already forget what you read in the bingo book back when we met Zabuza, he scolded her. Sakura looked sheepish and rubbed the back of her head. Come on, get to it. But before that you will create a shadow clone and make it read the scroll. You have till the boss is back to read the scroll once. You on the other hand will learn Taijutsu. I think I will teach you the Konoha Senpu or the Uzumaki swirling fist. I think my family style would fit you best seeing how agile you are, the vampire explained calm while he thought about it. What do you mean agile? She blushed like mad. I mean that I read your academy report and that you were always good in gymnastics. You were only second to Ino in class, he explained with a slight blush as he thought about his crush. Sakura actually noticed the blush and began to piece some things together. How Naruto always went to the Yamanaka flower shop. How he always blushed in Ino's presence. Could it be that you love Ino? She asked, unsure. What? How he jumped back, practically glowing like mad. Was it really that obvious? He caught himself again and coughed into his fist, making her giggle. Well, not really, but even I can piece 1 and 1 together with enough hints, she smiled sweetly. Now listen up. You will not tell anyone about this. You understand, he growled, making her look at him in confusion. But why not? It would be so sweet to see you 2 together, she sighed with a dreamy look on her face. Sakura, I'm a S-class ninja. I have more enemies than I can count, and you think I should openly admit that I love someone? Ino would be their target to get to me. I can't and won't allow that, he explained, serious, making her pale as she realized the gravity of the whole situation. I understand, she muttered and hung her head. A hand on her shoulder made her look up though. Naruto crouched before her and smiled kindly. Come on, Sakura. Let's continue your training, he smiled and she nodded. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. It had been hours since Lisa had begun to prepare Naruto for the ceremony. With her small hands she braided silver beads, silver fox fangs, silver feathers, rubies and sapphires in his hair. So what do you think about becoming a Kitsune, Naruto-kun, she asked with a smile. I think it would be interesting. I always felt close to Kurami ni, but we were never the same. I always felt the difference between us, but now I have a chance to become one her kin, he explained calm with his eyes still closed. What will you do after the ceremony? She continued her questions. I will have to return to Konoha for now till Uzushio needs me as its cage. But the Kitsune clan is always welcome in Yuzu, he explained with a gentle smile. I can't make such decisions. You would have to ask the elders for that, Lisa sighed and finished to her work. We are finished here, Naruto-kun. You can go now. Kenji-sen will explain the rest to you, she smiled and turned to leave. Thank you, Lisa-chan, he smiled, making her blush as she left. So Kenji-sen, what will happen now? The teen asked and turned his head towards the old fox who drank his tea in a corner. We will begin with the extraction ceremony tomorrow afternoon. It will take the whole night to free Kurami-sama. I must warn you, it will be painful, the old fox sighed. I can deal with pain. I have suffered enough for 2 lifetimes during my first 5 years in the leaf. The teen sighed, tired, suddenly being reminded of his torture. I'm sorry to hear that. I assume that the humans weren't pleased with you being Kurami-sama's host, he sighed, already knowing the answers. Yeah, humans are fools, but what can you do? They will never change. They had hundreds of years and they still wage war like it's a perverse game, Naruto sighed, thinking of how narrow-minded his former kind was. Come on. Let's not talk about these unpleasant things. Here, have a drink, the man smiled and passed him a small bottle. I usually don't drink, but I think I will make an exception, the vampire sighed and opened the bottle. Enjoy the drink, Ataudo. You have earned it. Kurami thought and turned back to one of her books from the library in Naruto's mind. Sakura lay on the ground all sprawled and panting. Naruto had started her taijutsu training in his family style, seeing as it fit her better than the Konoha senpu. Come on, Sakura, I know you have more stamina than that, the clone of her master encouraged her. Please sensei, let me take a short break, she panted weakly. Okay, Sai, you can rest for 10 minutes. I want to talk to our spectator anyway, he sighed, making her follow his look and saw a young Kitsune kid watching them from the distance. You can come over here. We won't hurt you, Naruto called with a gentle smile, not showing his fangs as he crouched down to be on eye level with the child. The kid looked unsure but slowly walked over to the 2 visitors. When he finally reached them, he mustered them closely. Now Sakura could also look at the kid closely from her position. He was a kid about 6 to 7 years with blonde hair, sun-kissed blonde hair and 2 tails waving behind him, a bit hesitant. He wore a simple dark orange kimono with no shoes, showing of his clawed feet. "What can we help you with, little one?" the vampire asked in a soft voice that Sakura would think a child caretaker would have. I wanted to," the Kitsune stuttered before he seemed to collect himself. "I wanted to ask if you really were a vamp," he began confident, but it faded at the end. "You want to know if I'm a vampire?" Naruto formed the question for him, making him nod in silence. "Yes, I'm a vampire, but don't worry, I'm not like my ancestors, or the Shinigami wouldn't have turned me into one," he assured the kid while showing a small fanged grin. The kid only grinned and ran away towards the village. Sakura looked after him with a confused look before she heard her sensei chuckle. "Nice kid. Bet his friends challenged him to ask me that," he chuckled. "But why did he seem to be so afraid?" Sakura questioned, confused. "Well, you see, there were more of my kind till some time ago. They were mindless beasts, and let's just say that they destroyed more than one village in their blood rage." The teen sighed, not liking to think of his former people's mistakes. "What happened to them? If they were just partially as strong as you, then what could have killed them?" the girl asked, not seeing her sensei's obvious pain to the question. "I killed them all," he sighed and sat down beside her. But she sat up and looked at him, confused. "Why would you do that?" she continued. "They were monsters, Sakura. They needed to be stopped, or they would have returned to their former glory and overrun humanity. Since Motoko isn't allowed to interfere in the human realm too much, she couldn't do it herself. That's why she searched for someone with a pure soul, someone she could entrust with these enormous powers, and then she found me. So I picked up my duty and destroyed the remains of my kind before they got strong again," the vampire explained with a steeled look in his eyes. "How did their numbers reduce so much if they were so powerful?" the pink-haired girl asked, confused. "The people of Yuzu were ninja, but they were mainly vampire hunters. But because of a betrayal inside the leaf, they were left to die, and so it was destroyed in the last ninja war," he sighed, not liking why his former people died. "What do you mean betrayal?" she asked, confused how her home village could leave an allied village to fend for themselves. "There was a conspiracy inside the council during that time. You may have learned about Danzo Shimura and the academy. He betrayed the leaf and left Yuzu to perish by stopping the request for help reached the Hokage." The vampire sighed and stood up. "Wasn't he a member of the Sandaime Hokage's team?" Sakura was confused. "Yes, he was, and a power-hungry fool at that," the man growled, and she knew to drop the topic. "So how far did you two get while I was gone?" Another Naruto walked up to the two. The clone simply puffed away, and the original looked through his memories. Sakura looked at her sensei in awe. He looked a bit different from before. His hairstyle had changed into something that looked more like Ino's style. His spiky red hair hung before his right eye, while the rest was tied into a low ponytail. He had silver ornaments webbed into his hair. Some silver fox fangs along with equally silver feathers and carved silver pins. In between them were polished rubies, yellow jade, aquamarine, red corals, and tiger eyes weaved into the wisps of hair. And think Jack Sparrow, just with silver and gems. His eyes held a strong but gentle glow, giving his shadowed right eye a more mysterious feeling. He also wore a different attire. On was his black leather clothes, and they were replaced by the simple black hakama and sandals. The fox fangs were still bound to his back. His aura gave a sense of actual peace, not the usually cold calculative calmness. "So you started your taijutsu training in my family's style and medical knowledge. That's good to know. So how do you feel of continuing your training?" he asked, calm. Not really, sensei. I thought that maybe I could concentrate more on medical training today. My muscles are killing me," she asked, finding it a bit more easy to be around him now. "Okay, do that. While you learn from the scrolls, I will look around if I can find some herbs for my poisons. I'm running pretty low on them right now," he explained calm before he turned to leave. "I'll be back in 2 hours. You have your provisions if you get hungry. We will be staying at Lisa-chan's place tonight," he explained before he vanished in a shunshin. Sakura only looked at the place where her sensei just stood before she shook her head, dispelled her own clone, only to clutch her head in pain. She still wasn't used to the sudden influx of informations from the technique, and when she used it to learn, it was even worse. After the pain finally dulled, she stumbled to the tree where her clone had sat and picked up the scroll again to test her knowledge on the just learned stuff. She was smart, that went without a question, but she worked hard for what she knew. Sakura was a born theorist, but she had problems to use the learned in practice. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Naruto walked around the border of the village and looked at the plants growing there. He had unsealed a basket from a seal on his lower left arm, under his left arm. Carefully he plucked out a plant here and there and put it in his basket. After an hour or so he finally had filled his basket to the top. He then unsealed a mortar and pestle along with some of his own herbs and small bottles filled with liquids. They were round and 5 inches in diameter, like a ball with a flat side to place them down. Along with the bottles he unsealed a black leather belt with metal test tubes put into the belt. The tubes were about 1 inch thick and 5 inches long. The final was a gas cooker along with a few pots. The vampire placed everything before himself and sorted the herbs and began to pound them into a dark green paste. He began to add herb here and there, along with some of the liquids from the bottles, and the paste turned blood red. Then he filled the paste into a pot and put it on the cooker. Carefully he began to stir the paste with a senbon needle till it began to liquefy. Before it completely liquefied he added a shot of a clear liquid and stirred it before he pulled a tube from th belt and opened it. With a calm hand he poured the liquid into the tube and leaned it against the mortar to cool down. Crying fire complete, he muttered as he sniffed the poison. "You are quite skilled, aren't you, Naruto-kun?" a female voice asked behind him. "Well, yes, Kalele-san. I learned from the best poison maker in the elemental nations. He was a great man and a great medic after his days of bloodshed. He taught me everything he knew before he died of old age," the teen sighed, making the woman look at him sadly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," she began to, only for her to interrupt her. "Don't worry about it. He had a long great life. Now he's resting in peace," the Jonin explained calm, giving her a soft smile. Kalele only nodded, not wanting to press the matter before she remembered something. "I heard you will be staying at Lisa-chan's house tonight, is that right?" she asked with a smile. "Yes. She offered me and my student her place for the night." He nodded and began to clean his tools and put the now closed tube back in the belt. "Well then, I will be seeing you later," she grinned and walked off without awaiting his answer. So that's what you meant earlier, the Jonin grinned as he looked at the woman before him. Naruto had carried a exhausted Sakura to Lisa's house and was greeted by the smiling face of Kalele. "You know my Kasan, Naruto-kun?" Lisa asked confused. "We talked after you were finished with me," he teased the young fox girl, only to make her blush like mad. Kalele saw where he was going with this and picked up on it. "Hey, no fair, Lisa-chan. I wanted to claim him," she whined, making her daughter blush even more. "If you really want to, we could have a threesome," the vampire continued, only for the poor Kitsune girl to faint and fall to the ground with a massive blush. That was enough to make the mother and the Jonin to laugh. The vibrations of his body made Sakura stir on his back, remembering him that he was still carrying her. "Say, could you tell me where I can put my student, please? She exhausted herself mentally and needs rest," he asked calm. "Of course. Follow me." The woman guided him to a room where he put the pink-haired girl on a bed, but not before picking up her daughter and placing her in the other bed. She immediately snuggled into the comfy feeling of the mattress, and the two left. In the living room, both sat down and shared a laugh. Lisa-chan's face was priceless, Naruto laughed. "You're right there," Kalele laughed. "So how do you like the ornaments?" She changed the topic. "They are really beautiful," he smiled and let his fingers glide through the ornaments. "This new hairstyle also gives you a more mysterious feeling," she giggled and pushed the wisps of hair behind her ear. "Thank you. I thought it was time for a change," he smiled and looked at the ceiling. "So can you tell me a bit more about yourself?" the woman asked with a slight stutter. "What's there to know? The day I was born, Karami ni was sealed into me. My parents died and the village wanted my death every minute of my life. Then the Uchiha took me until my godfather came around and took me away for training. During that I killed the last remaining vampires in the elemental nations. I returned to the leaf and then I came to find your people," he shrugged casually. Kalele looked at him in disbelief. How can he act so casually about people wanting to end his life all the time? She thought, shocked. "How can you be so calm about it?" she asked in a silent scream. "I have long since given up on Konoha learning from their mistakes, but they are indoctrination resistant," he shrugged calm, not looking at her. "Come on, we should go to bed. Tomorrow is a long day," he sighed and leaned back. "Is that an offer?" Kalele teased, making him grin. "Sorry, but I already have someone I love and my cousin is also after my ass," he grinned at her gobsmacked expression. "I know that Lisa-chan has a crush on me and despite me not liking it, I'm still a Konohanin and an heir to 2 clans. That means that the craw will be applied on me," he explained with a tired sigh. "The what?" the woman asked confused. "The Clan Restoration Act. It means that I have to marry multiple women to ensure my clan's survival. But maybe I can bypass it by leaving the village and finally become the Uzukage. Though I will miss my friends in Konoha," he stated serious. Kalele knew that it would be best to listen to his advice and get some rest because she wouldn't get any more answers tonight. She excused herself and Naruto laid down on the couch, immediately drifted off. Naruto sat on a flat stone with his eyes closed for hours. Surrounding him in a circle sat 18 Kitsune chanting a melodic prayer. An Final Fantasy X Hymn of the Faith Bahamut, the remainders of his seal and the markings Lisa had applied to him resonated with a blue glow to their chants. The nature energy around him began to gather and spin around him lazy till it became visible to the normal eyes. Inside the seal he heard Karami humming the same tune as her clan members as she too became surrounded by nature energy that she drew from her little brother. Sakura watched from outside the circle along with most members of the Kitsune clan. She was in awe how they made nature energy visible to the naked eye and how the markings on her sensei's body resonated to the chanting. Be ready for this, Ni-chan. He thought calm, though he readied himself for the pain that would come with the extraction of her essence and the change into a Kitsune demon. As ready as I can be for hurting my Atauto, she mumbled sad. Don't worry about me, Ni-chan. I don't think this will be worse than anything the village ever did to me. He tried to soothe her but only got a nod and a weak smile. Kurami suddenly felt a pulling sensation. At first the feeling was weak and only made her hair move, but it soon got stronger and she began to slid towards the feeling. Naruto began to howl in pain as he fell backwards and arched his back. His mouth wide open, his fangs growing devilish long, and his eyes glowed pure white. The color of the markings on his body changed from the soft blue to angry red as Kurami's very essence began to seep out of him. The red energy began to collect itself in a red glowing ball before him. The nature energy surrounding him seeped into the red ball and it began to form a human-like body. The form solidified into a tall woman with back long red hair, a perfect hergless figure, perfect long legs and at least deep breasts. She wore a creme-colored kimono with a sarawak blossom pattern. Finally 9 orange fox tails and ears materialized on her body. The woman collapsed on the ground weak from the extraction. Naruto howls of pain continued as his appearance began to change. Black fox ears with red tips began to grow on top of his head while his human ears disappeared. 4 equally colored tails sprouted from his tailbone. His nails turned to claws and his eyes became sharper before he fainted. The chanting turned silent as everyone looked at the unmoving body of Naruto. Kurami panted in exhaustion, but she crawled to her surrogate brother to check on him. Lisa and Kalela ran to their clan leader to help her while Sakura ran to her sensei. She fell to her knees beside him and shrieked in horror. Everyone looked at her as she began to shake the seemingly unconsciousness Jonin. Come on sensei, you can't just leave me alone here. Breath for Kami's sake. She yelled, making everyone go wide-eyed. Nah, Naruto. Naruto. Kurami whispered before she yelled as the horror of truth caught up to her. She freed herself from the grip of the Kitsune girls and stumbled forward in order to reach her beloved Atauto. Not even a muscle twitch came from him as she fell to her knees beside him and grabbed a hold of his hand. Everyone watched in silence and stayed where they were. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. The red-haired vampire drifted in an ocean of clear blue water with the sun burning from above him. He didn't know where he was or who he was for that matter. He was simply there without any purpose but existing. His blue eyes looked up at the clear sky, hoping it would answer him his unasked questions. The tails growing from his back moved lazy through the water, keeping him afloat with ease. Where am I? He whispered confused. In a place you should be for a long time, Naruto-chan, a female voice stated sorrowful. He turned his head to the voice and saw a beautiful pale woman with silver hair standing on the water beside him. Her eyes showed a pain he couldn't understand. Naruto. Is that my name? He questioned her calm. You don't remember me, don't you? She answered with her own question. I feel like I should know that. I definitely know you from somewhere. But my memories are all so foggy I can't make out any details, he explained as he actually sat up, forgetting the water around him. My name is Motoko. I am the Shinigami and yes, we know each other quite well. I raised you along with Kurami-chan, she explained with audible pain in her voice as she knelt beside him. I'm sorry that I cause you so much pain, Motoko-san, he excused himself. No, it's alright, Naru-chan, she mumbled with a small sob. Before she knew what happened, he hugged her. She stiffened in surprise but relaxed just as fast and returned the embrace. Motoko gave him a soft peck on the cheek and he blushed a bit. Suddenly his mind began to clear and the fog above his memories began to lift. He pulled her closer as he finally remembered who he was. Thank you, Motoko-ni, he whispered in her ear, making her gasp. She pushed him back to look into his face and saw his usual calm and confident look. Naruto. She squealed happy and hugged him again. Hey, calm down, Motoko-ni, no need to push the stuffing out of me, he joked as she hugged him for dear life. You idiot. She yelled, not letting go of him. Hey, it's not my fault that I'm here. Wherever here is, he stated with a chuckle as he looked around the ocean. You are in the Ishikete no Yumi. An Sea of Decision. Google Translate. Here the great heroes of their times get to make a decision of their own if their time was not over yet, she explained and let him go. What kind of decision? The vampire asked, confused. The decision to live or to die, she smiled as she saw the understanding on his face. So I can just go back and continue living till my time is over, he asked with a happy smile. Yes, that's the reason this place exists for, she giggled. But say, shouldn't I have survived the extraction of Kurami's extraction? I mean, I'm a vampire after all, he changed the topic with a frown. Yes, you should have, but you made the mistake to not drink any blood before the ceremony to be at your full strength because you wanted to be polite to your hosts. This caused your soul to drift here, she growled and slapped him on the back of his head. I'm sorry Motoko ni, he hung his head with a slight cloud of depression above his head. You better be, she scolded him serious before she gave him another hit on the head. Now get going Ataudo. The others are about to cremate your body because they believe you dead. She gave him a push and he vanished with a panicked expression on his face. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Naruto tried to adjust his senses to get a grasp of his situation. Many people around him with sorrowful auras, himself laying on top wood structure with fire under him. His eyes snapped open, feeling the incredible heat coming from under him. Oh fuck me sideways. He thought as he realized that he was wrapped up in white cloth. With a massive burst of Yauki he broke through his shroud. But the Yauki spike also enlarged the fire to embrace him in its burning rage. With a fluid motion he guided the flames around him, making them dance towards the sky without harming him. The Kitsune clan and Sakura looked in pure shock as his outline stood strong against the flames before it burst away in sparks. Everyone gaped at him as his tail swung behind him in confident waves. He jumped to the ground and cracked his stiff neck. This made everyone snap out of their thoughts and assume a fighting stance except from Sakura, Kurami, Kalela, Lisa and Kenji. Oh come on. I was just dead for a few hours. Cut me some slack would you, the vampire Kitsune huffed. The women ran up to without another word and gave him a bone-crushing hug, throwing him to the ground. Naruto. They squealed giddy. Hey calm down. It's not like I was gone for long, he struggled against their grip. You were gone for 2 days not-chan. Kurami sobbed into his chest. I was what, he asked baffled. I will have to talk to Motoko ni about that. He scowled a bit pissed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stay away for so long, he soothed them while the others relaxed their stances. It seems that Shinigami-sama has really taken a liking to you, me boy, Kenji stated as he walked up to the teen. Of course she likes him. She raised him after all, a squeaky voice laughed from under Naruto's Hakama top. Everyone looked at the vampire in surprise, who himself was feeling something move under his clothes. A few seconds later a small fox head emerged from his top. The fox looked around before it crawled out of his clothes and sat on his chest. It had yellow fur with a white belly, feet and tail tip. Its pink eyes showed a strong sense of self-confidence, and judging from the voice earlier, it seemed to be female. What are you all looking at, it huffed. Yep, definitely a girl. And a moody one at that. Naruto and Kurami thought with a rose eyebrow. So cute. The other three thought with a smile. And who might you be, Kenji asked calm as he looked at the fox. I'm Kaki and the Motoko-sama send me to watch over this idiot here, she puffed her chest in pride. You and watch me? Now I really need to talk to Motoko ni. What is she thinking, he mumbled to himself only for Kaki to bite his finger. You do realize that something like that can't really hurt me, don't you, he smiled at the angry fox kid. Kaki looked him in the eyes and actually let go of his finger before she licked the bite wound with a sorrowful look on her face. Come on now, no need to look so down, Kaki-chan. I have been through too much to be resentful about something like this. He smiled and patted her head, making her actually purr much to her own embarrassment. Hey girls, how about you get off me now so I can finally get off my back. It hurts to lay on my tails, he smiled at the women that were still hugging him. They gave him a sheepish smile and let go of him so he could sit up. His tail stretched easily behind him as he stood up. Kaki followed his movement and ended up sitting on top of his head. You know, I could really use something to eat, he gave everyone a fanged smile. Can you only think about eating, Kaki huffed a bit annoyed. Oh come on, cut me some slack. I haven't eaten since before we came to the village, he growled back as his eyes flashed white for a second. But that's 4 days. Why didn't you eat anything before the ritual, Lisa asked confused. Well, I consume blood and I didn't want to ruin your appetite because of your sharp senses would surely be bothered by the smell of blood, the vampire explained with a small smile. Lisa and Kalela nodded dumbly, not thinking that he would be so considerate was. Kurami only shook her head at her former host. Sakura was just happy to have her sensei back. She didn't know what Ino would have done if she heard that he died. The girl had pieced her friend's usual reactions to the vampire together, just like she had her sensei's, and it made her smile. Kenji only shook his head in amusement before he turned serious. Kaki just made herself comfortable on top of his head and began to doze off. We have something to talk about, my boy, he stated serious, gaining the vampire's full attention before he turned to leave. Understood, Naruto nodded and followed the old fox. The girls stayed behind knowing it wasn't their place to follow except for Kurami. She walked alongside her former container. Since she was the clan head, she had the right and the obligation to come along. As the three vanished in Kenji's hut, everyone began to disperse and go back to their everyday life. What if Naruto has explosion release and shadow? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.